Okay. You need anything? You good to go?
Oh, good. Yeah, I think
How do you
so.
pronounce your last name? Gunzelman?
Gunzelman.
Gunzelman. Is that German?
Very.
Okay. Gunzelman? You couldn't tell? My ancestors were very strong.
Von Gunzelman. I think they lost like the N and the T, like when they came from Germany.
Now, what does it mean? Do you know what it means actually?
I've looked into it. I think there's a couple of different things. It's a little bit hairy. No, I don't know exactly what it means.
You know? Okay.
I have
Just stick
an
with
idea.
this. It means like super strong. My ancestors were huge. They didn't work out. They were just on the land all the time. And so they're naturally very strong. My last name, Zek, is originally Zaitz.
Okay.
It's a Serbian last name.
Yeah.
It's not that cool. It means rabbit or hare.
Okay, but that symbolically is pretty cool. Like follow the white rabbit.
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
I know.
I think that's pretty epic.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, like the trust that I'm the trustee of is called White Rabbit Trust.
I'd say, yeah.
It's funny. Okay, well, I'm super stoked for this conversation.
Me too.
I don't know where it's going to go, and that's cool. That's
like life, yeah.
Yeah. But if you could just give an introduction to the audience of who you are, who I'm talking to today, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I wish that I don't do labels very well. I don't do that. I am Erin Gunzelman. I teach people about consciousness, I think is the best way to say it. But today I think we're going to talk about, well, we'll see what we talk about, but I want to talk a little bit more about my background and my history and patterns that I see, like how I move through the world and why I do it the way that I do. Like we mentioned earlier, I was telling you I'm pretty intuitive, and like every second of my day is like intuitively based. I live straight from here, and that was not always the way I was. I didn't come from that type of environment. I didn't even know. But yeah, it's the shift from just straight up materialism, like this materialist paradigm, to an energetic one. Mm-hmm. And yeah, my journey, I guess, to get there.
Let's talk about
Let's talk about the journey. Yeah. Because I started like my career, I guess you could say, when I had one of those, in intelligence. I was a geography major in college, which seems like unrelated.
Where did you go to school?
Mary Washington.
Okay.
It's in Virginia.
Okay.
It's just outside DC, which is how I landed in that world. One of my professors was friends with a guy at a defense contractor. They wanted to open an internship pipeline. And I worked for the department. I was, like a ambitious student, and got the job. And so I was commuting my senior year up to DHS, or a contract with Department of Homeland Security. And then
I think it's good for any acronyms that come up, just for the Australian listeners and even
there are a lot
non-government employee or former government employee listeners, because like you and I, like the acronyms are, but let's
catch me for sure.
I got you.
Yeah,
I will try not to interrupt, but I will if there's an acronym.
Please interrupt. Yeah. But yeah, I was back and forth at DHS my senior year of college, and then I got hired for that, for that contract fully, and was there until my clearance popped. And that was kind of like a holding pen, sort of. It was like kind of well known as being a holding pen for people who are waiting for their clearance to pop, because it can take over a year sometimes, depending on what, you have on your history to get all that sorted. Yeah.
Funny, I won't say at the time it wasn't very funny, but funny story, like in hindsight. Some of my friends so at West Point, there's 17 now, I think, branches that you can branch in the Army. And obviously there's a lot of little like sub jobs within that, but I branched field artillery, which most people out of West Point branch combat arms, like a good half. But those who branched military intelligence had to do like a bunch of additional surveys and like
paperwork.
Did you ever smoke this? Did you ever try that? And so many of my friends who had done that before West Point were like, dude, I don't know what the fuck I don't know what to say, man. I'm like really worried about this. Like, am I going to get kicked out?
We should talk about that. Yeah.
And I think one of the kids in my class who was branching military intelligence lied, and then they found out somehow, because they interview like past friends and family members as well.
Yeah, everyone. Yeah.
And so he lied, and they caught him in lie, and he got kicked out of West Point, I want to say. Like it was pretty wild.
It can, like it's interesting, I guess, because like my first full scope polygraph that I ever took was actually kind of traumatic. it was while I was working on that contract, I had never smoked a cigarette. I had never nothing. I thought I was going to be in and out like 30 minutes. They kept me for almost 4 hours. It was like I don't think there's a legal limit for the amount of time they can question you, but I was in there for a long time and I left in tears. I had to call my dad and I was like, am I a good person? Like, I legit did not know what was up or down, if I was coming or going. Like, I couldn't make sense of my reality. And that's kind of part of what I hope to convey here today. Actually, it's like these control systems, how covert they are, how manipulative and insidious it can be, and how we perpetuate them unconsciously. And we just like beg for it, without knowing, I guess. But yeah, it was like there's a whole, mess of things red flags in hindsight, right? But to your story, I went, and I talked to an Army friend of mine afterwards, and he was like, you just have to be shameless. You tell them everything. Because really, I mean, the whole argument is like, then they won't if they know everything, no one will ever be able to blackmail you, basically. So it's like, for your protection, which again sounds an awful lot like the energetic of some of the other things that have been oppressed upon us. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like in other ways. So it's like, well, this is an echo like happening here. I wonder what else we're consenting to for my protection and my safety. Like what's really going on here? Because polygraphs don't even detect lies. They detect sensitivity, which is what has been weaponized like against me my whole life, like my intuition. It's like,
do you feel because of how you grew up, which we were talking off camera, similarly to me, that you naturally had this inherent like guilt and shame and am I a bad person even prior to you calling your dad, questioning whether, you were worthy? Because I could see where on a polygraph, you were just tense the whole time.
Everything was sensitive. Exactly. Yeah. Right. It's like you asked me what color my favorite color is. And I'm like, I don't want to get it wrong. Yeah. I don't know, actually.
I don't want them to think that I'm lying. I'm literally just like.
So it's like, obviously every question, but it did get a little hairy because, so yes, to answer your question short, yes, but also it's deeper than that because I came from I was internalizing the patriarchy, like the insidious, wounded masculine energy of these systems, right? Not because there's nothing, I don't think, inherently wrong with the patriarchy necessarily, but like the wounded aspects of it. And like calling my dad was not the right choice because like that was like perpetuating the situation. But
it makes sense, especially as a daughter, though, too, if you're coming from that wounding pattern to turn to, and I don't want to.
What should be a safe.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So it was like very, and yeah, I mean, there's like a whole thing there because it's confusing because my dad is really safe. He's one of the strongest, most protective men I've ever encountered. But again, unconsciously, I think we perpetuate these oppressive dynamics. And so we don't realize what we're actually consenting to. And that's why it's very insidious. And that's what led to a lot of my health issues that popped up while I was still in those environments. My body was speaking to me the whole time. So it's this whole like interconnected web of things that from my own experiential evidence, like I started to put the puzzle pieces together. I'm like, there's patterns here. History is echoing. And this is a holographic reality. They're all fractals. And it's like literally micro level, my life is being reflected to me in the macro, like in the world stage and all these other things. And the more I reclaim my power, the more I reclaim my energy and I set boundaries and I learn, like you're saying, all of that, my reality shifts, like big things change in beautiful ways. But I know that darkness, like my child, like I am from the shadows, like the deepest, darkest shadows that we see playing out on the world stage right now. And that's why I spot them. And it can be really uncomfortable for everyone. But yeah, it's like this journey of processing the emotions and like reclaiming all of that and then choosing different, right? Like choosing what we want to create and anchor into this energetic grid that we're all in together.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it'd be appropriate to share contextually as we get into some of the intel related conversations where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. I just thought of this story. again, sets the scene for the environment. It was very early in, like, maybe a couple of months in, and I was young, but I got scooped into an environment that was very cleared.
What do you mean by cleared?
Like high clearance level.
Oh, high clearance level, like security clearance level.
Super, yeah, high clear. And I remember one of my neighbors in our, it was like an open setting. But one of my neighbors was like a double PhD rocket scientist guy and like just brilliant man. And I was chatting with another one of our neighbors, and I remember they walked off and he stopped what he was doing and he looked up at me and he said, "You can't go any higher." Like, he was like pointing, he was kind of angry because I was young and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, I'm here now and this is the job I have now and we'll see what happens. And he was like, "There's nowhere else to go. This is as high as you go." And that was like his warning to me. It was really angry and not
Interesting.
nice.
Warning in what way?
I think he wanted to convey severity and like urgency and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Did you get the impression that he had been in whatever job you were working for quite some time?
He definitely had.
Okay. So he was almost coming from a position that, like,
authority.
Okay. That makes sense.
And that's who I was surrounded by. I think because I was so young, and when I was at DHS, I mean, again, it's a really interesting story because I started as an intern and I got pulled aside early on in that internship, and they were like, "You've got to make this look harder. You're finishing this stuff in 2 days and it's supposed to take you weeks to do this." And I was like, "Oh, I'm coming from academia where that's not how that works."
Yeah.
But in the government, there's bureaucracy. There's like a lot of, and it's like, don't be too bright and shiny, which sounded a lot like my childhood too, right? Like, don't shine too much. You'll leave us behind or something. So, I think I put myself into a really interesting position just immediately. And I was doing a lot of geoint in the very beginning. Like, I was a purely geospatial analyst. But I was around a lot of, like, you'd call them dinosaurs, guys that had been working the same targets their entire career, like really brilliant, beautiful humans that knew a lot. And I learned a lot and that sort of thing. But highly cleared. And it caused a lot of anxiety for me. Like, it was like fear of God for me. And this isn't obviously everyone's experience, so I can only speak for myself, and I'll make that very clear. Like, this is my personal experience. I don't speak for anyone else. But I think it's important to convey because of the bigger picture of what I actually was experiencing or how I see it now.
Can you say what your job was at that time specifically?
Yeah, at the time I was a geoint analyst.
Yeah.
And
what does that actually mean though? Like
geoint is geospatial intelligence.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was working at that time. It's very interesting because I rocked up on the scene. I graduated college in 2011. And so it was like right at the peak after all of the funding from 9/11 that had been funneled into the defense industry was really peaking. And they had stood up a lot of things had been reorganized after 9/11. It was very obvious, like this branch, this division, these have all, because part of why 9/11 happened was because of the stovepipes. FBI doesn't want to share with this agency and this agency, and there's all the, and that was part of the problem. And maybe that's a good segue for the history lesson. Like, sure. Intelligence in general is fascinating to me. Like intelligence products, like all the way back to Babylon, they decouple time and space, right? A map is like a snapshot of the earth in a static moment. And so you fast forward until the 1940s. We could talk about history, but we won't. But like, I love history, but 1940s, it's like communism. We've got Cold War stuff going on. It's very like single threat, human. So human intelligence and that sort of thing is like where we're starting out with that professional, like intelligence as a profession, I guess, because it's been around since forever. But, you keep going a little bit more till the 60s, and now we've got the Cold War really peaking and things are shifting a bit more. And from where I sit, and in hindsight, looking at how all of this moves, threats, detections, that the counter, all of that is, it begins to shift closer to the 90s, right? After the Cold War really dies down and we're like, whew, we're in the clear, right? Have you ever heard of, it was like the Last Supper at the Pentagon in 1993?
No.
Okay, so as I understand it, up until that point, there were like a solid 50 defense contractors, like major defense contractors that worked for the government, like worked with the government. About maybe half, like 20, 25, got invited to this supper, this dinner at the Pentagon, and about 5 walked out. They consolidated. Like the whole idea was to consolidate the defense industry. Keep going a little bit more. Under 10 years later, 9/11 happens, right? And so now this like counterterrorism thing is coming, and there's a shift. We're noticing stovepipes and all these holes in how we work and share information. And I think a couple years after that was the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
And Patriot Act is so funny to me because it stands for like prepare. It's like something about
like the actual acronym.
Yeah, like the military loves acronyms. I could look it up really. It's like providing.
You keep going. I'll look it up.
Providing appropriate tools, something about to the warfighter. You know what I mean? Like that's like the defense contractors think we want to make it easier for the warfighter. Preparing appropriate or something sort of.
Providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism act.
Yeah. Okay, so that's like very post 9/11 kind of thing. And so all this money is getting like funneled into the defense industry. And that's when you hear Donald Rumsfeld start talking about unknown unknowns and known knowns and all those types of things. And activity-based intelligence was one of the many things that were born from all of that. So as I was this GeoIn analyst, 10 years after that, rocking up on the scene, doing some really cool, exciting stuff. A lot of the work I was doing was around denial and deception efforts. So I didn't have one AOR like area of responsibility. I just was global, and it was whatever was high threat at the time. So
what is your perception of these things that were so-called threats? Like from the perspective of Erin then versus Erin now, and even like terrorism. I don't want to go off on a huge tangent.
Because that's a big conversation. Yeah. Because it like when I left, I was afraid that I would feel not in the loop. I was like, I'm not going to know what's going on. What's going to happen, right? When I quit years later.
Yeah.
But I didn't miss it when I left.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it felt like a lot of pressure for little Erin. This was like, over 10 years ago now. It's like very elusive. And I was a very different person. And so now there's a whole other metaphysical part to this conversation. I promise we'll get it's related, because I was having dreams about war. I was very much like at war with myself. I'm watching war all day. I'm going into buildings and rooms with no windows and floor to ceiling, monitors. And I'm using a lot of data from sources and methods that are not what I expected. And it wasn't organized. I was disenchanted pretty much immediately. I was like, this is your database? I'm coming from academia where I just learned how to like program something amazing, this algorithm to like crawl on all this data and like produce this result. And I can't even find the data now. So that was really disenchanting, which probably is something that you can relate to with your, because it's in every facet, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I majored in systems engineering at West Point. I learned how to code with Microsoft Visual Basic. I don't remember any of that shit now. I still am good at using like Excel, but I used to be able to code with Excel. Like
totally
make like spreadsheets that could mine data from places and like aggregate
the power. Yeah. And that's what I was doing. So I learned Python. I was doing a lot of geospatial.
I learned Python, Jython, all the things.
Snake. Yeah. But I thought that was amazing because I was like, oh, this language makes sense to me. I'm speaking in zeros and ones. Like it's yes or no. It's this and then that and the parameters. And so that kind of feeds into this whole like how things evolve and how intelligence has evolved and what my perception of it then was, because I was super disenchanted.
In what way? Just based on the lack of organization? Or?
Yeah, I think so. But not necessarily like the sources and the methods. And like like that's what I want to be sensitive to here, because that's what's really, but it was like, there were times where I'd see something break on CNN, but we didn't have imagery yet. Right. And so it was like collection was off, or there were just like so many problems. And there was so much bureaucracy like wrapped up in trying to get analysts answers that they needed. And it was interesting because I grew up like around a lot of military stuff. My childhood was incredibly militaristic in a lot of ways. I had a lot of friends. I had a friend at the Citadel. Like there was a lot there. And I would think of them and I'd say, they're guys on the ground, like boots on the ground. And we're supposed to be informing them and help. And like this chain, there's something off. And it felt weird.
Did it feel like an intentional off?
Right. So that's where the cognitive dissonance comes in these days.
Yeah.
And I just was talking to Mark Ober actually last week, and I told him this story, and I'd love to tell you and hear your perspective.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
There was this one day, right around that time, that man was like, you don't get any higher than this. That I had stayed late at work and they needed a map. Like something went down and the Levant analyst was out. He had gone home for the day, couldn't get him back. And they're like, Erin, please, can you make this map? It's for John Kerry. Like the Secretary of State needs this. They are having a meeting at this time. Like, can you? And it was like a map of
Iraq, Syria, and the Levant, like that region. Yeah. Okay.
And it was collection swaths, like where can we see, basically, I think is like the best way to say that. So we know how to prioritize tipping and queuing, like all of the things we need to do to get the answers that we need to make a decision. And my question to Mark really, or to anybody, is like, if it's all smoke and mirrors, if it's all a big conspiracy, if there's nefarious agendas or whatever you want to suggest, right? Why did I need to make that map? Why did it have to happen? Why did I have to stay late and make that map? Why are we, it's not like I was going home. I couldn't tell anybody what I was working on. I couldn't say anything. Also, what was I making a map of? Because now globe theory feels very slippery to me in my mind. Also, my dreams, it's not a globe when I dream and I zoom out on the map. You know what I mean? So it's like, now I've got a lot of experiential evidence and a lot of dissonance in my body that's pointing me in other directions.
Do you mean like, why did you have to stay late as someone with an above top, like the highest level of security?
The TSSCI. Yeah.
Say that again.
TSSCI. Yeah.
What does that acronym stand for?
It's like compartmented information. So there are a lot of like SAPs, like special access programs that you get read in and out of.
So this is my point though, is that I don't know that, okay, there seems to be perceptions from people who are outside of the military or who have never been in the military that when they say, quote, smoke and mirrors, it quite literally means that they're like not actually doing anything, or it's all just a big facade. And like a false flag, for example, is that like it's all actors that are playing a game and are all in on it.
Right.
I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think people are who've not been in an environment like that,
right,
have a lot of speculation surrounding what goes on in an environment like that.
Yes.
And I think the reality is more likely that because you were compartmentalized, like that's how the military operates. I've seen it myself, even with like, I had whatever the lowest level of security, like I was a field artillery officer.
China.
It's also the perception that like people assume that if you went to West Point, like, oh, you've seen, I'm like, dude, if you saw through my eyes over the course of 9 years, you'd be like, dude, you didn't see shit. Like there's nothing special on my end. Some of my friends
doubt
have
that. Okay, maybe don't sell yourself short.
Well, I mean, like in terms of like secret knowledge, like no, like none of that shit, like none of it. But what I'm getting at is that it's more likely you were given a task to complete, right?
Yeah.
That was a legitimate task for a legitimate purpose, but the purpose was different than you were being told or you were being led on to believe.
And what was that purpose? And also, it would be elaborate. Like where I'm at now is like, this is so much deeper than I can even wrap my mind around, if no matter which way you spin it, really, you know, because there's so much evidence that's saying, you know, that there is an element of illusion, right? Yeah. And so that's really where my work lies today, I think, is getting to the truth. Like, I feel it in my body when something's true, and I can feel when it's off. And I might not know exactly why or what is the truth, but I know there's something off there.
So when you try to put yourself back in that environment as best you can, because you're a completely different person, that's the
Totally.
like crux of it.
Yeah.
Or the paradox rather, is like, do you feel that at that time, or even now in hindsight, looking back on it, throughout the duration of that experience, something was off?
I'm going to yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I think it's like my programming wants it to be no.
Yeah.
My ego wants to say no.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Something's off. And it was on multiple levels. And again, this goes back to my childhood, control systems of manipulation, oppression, all of this. Like, I'm throwing myself into this job and I'm giving it everything I've got, and I want to serve my country and like help people. I mean, that's why I went into it. That's why so many people enter the professions they're in. This is the same conversation we have around medicine sometimes.
Totally.
Do you think that every doctor, every police officer, like really is in on it and like part of this nefarious? Right. It's
absolutely
like,
not.
And that's the crux of this. It's easy for us to project onto a system and say, you're bad, and other it. But that's perpetuating, I think, the life of the system itself. It's not the solution. We can't meet war with war and then be like, oh, here's peace. That's never happened.
Right.
And so it's about liberation to me. But, I'm doing this job and I can't do my job because there's a man at the end of the hallway where our desks are all open, and he stands and he circles, and he's making me uncomfortable because he's staring at me the whole time he's doing it. And eventually I tell, my branch chief, and I say, hey, there's something going on here. I'm not sure what I should do about this. And he says, oh, it sounds like somebody has a crush on you. And that's the solution. And I'm afraid to walk to my car at night. And now I'm on edge. I don't want to go to the bathroom. I don't want to go to the water cooler because this guy might confront me. And now I'm getting emails from some other random person on the high side. Like, these are classified emails on a high side system. And he's sending me messages about the skirt I wore and the suit I'm wearing. And and so again, there's like this undercurrent of another type of energy. I didn't feel safe in that environment at all. And that's, I think, part of why my answer is yes, something's off here, because this is not an actual safe environment for anyone.
Most healthcare today operates on an outdated mechanistic model, treating the body like a battlefield rather than a self-healing system. You wait months for an appointment only to receive a rush diagnosis that labels you rather than truly understanding your unique health. Even in holistic health, many practitioners rely on endless lab tests and supplement protocols, addressing symptoms instead of the root cause. And the result? Another prescription or supplement regimen that merely suppresses or masks symptoms rather than facilitating true healing, whether the imbalance was physical, emotional, energetic, or a mix of all three. And that's why Dr. Tom Cowan co-founded the New Biology Clinic, to offer something radically different. As one of the most respected natural health doctors in the world, Dr. Cowan has spent decades challenging conventional medicine and advancing a deeper understanding of human biology, water, and natural health. His work isn't just about rejecting the mainstream, it's about offering a more truthful, biologically coherent approach for healing. The New Biology Clinic recognizes that health isn't about fighting disease, it's about restoring balance. You're not a diagnosis, you're an individual with a unique story, and healing should honor that. With virtual consultations available worldwide, the clinic offers a flat-rate monthly membership that gives you direct access to practitioners who take the time to actually listen. Members also get exclusive health live streams, a resource library, and live sessions covering everything from biofield tuning and breathwork to movement and meditation, all designed to support whole body healing. And if you're not ready for a membership, you can book a one-time appointment, sign up for an enrichment-only membership for the healing modalities alone, or schedule a free connection session with one of the care team members to see how the New Biology Clinic can help in your specific situation. This isn't about keeping you dependent on doctors. It's about making you sovereign over your health. Head to newbiologyclinic.com and use code THEWAYFORWARD, and that's spelled The Way, F-O-R-W-A-R-D, for $50 off account activation, or just head to the show notes for more info. If you're a member of The Way Forward, email hello@thewayforward.com for $150 off. Your body already knows how to heal, and New Biology Clinic helps you remember. Most of us already know Shilajit is powerful. It's been used for thousands of years for energy, mental clarity, and overall vitality. But here's the problem. Most companies offering Shilajit are cutting corners. They're using fillers, skipping proper testing, and even hiding heavy metals like lead and arsenic behind fancy marketing and Instagram influencers. Dr. Andy Kaufman saw this happening and decided enough was enough. As an MIT biology graduate and tireless advocate for health freedom, he spent years researching and testing dozens of different Shilajit sources. And what he found was shocking: widespread contamination, fake lab reports, and murky supply chains everywhere he looked. And in response, he decided to create his own Shilajit, Authentica Shilajit, sourced from over 16,000 feet in the Himalayas, rigorously tested for purity, and backed by complete transparency. No fillers, no mystery ingredients, just the real deal. Shilajit you can actually trust and feel from the first serving. And listen, out of all the natural health doctors out there, Dr. Andy Kaufman is one of the most brilliant, in-depth researchers I know. If he recommends something, I'm definitely going to pay more attention. So if you're taking Shilajit already but have that gut feeling that something's just off, you're probably right. Trust that instinct and check out medauthentica.com/way forward, or just head to the show notes and be sure to use code way forward for 10% off your first order. Question on that, like, just because I'm curious, because I've never been in an environment like that myself, meaning like the security clearance level that you have. Given just the series of questionings and surveys you have to go through and the polygraph, it seems like there's a lot of psychological manipulation tactics to sort of break you in a way to be able to mold you. And I guess I do have experience with that with West Point, because like that is the whole point of West Point. And it's like overt too. Like we all would acknowledge that with each other. Like, yeah, we're all so close together as cadets here. Like a lot of my best friends.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the tough stuff we go through, right? As cadets. Yeah. But do you feel that this is a big question, that like even that experience of a guy like constantly like circling you was a manipulation tactic that someone employed? Someone at that level was like, hey, we are going to break this girl even further to use her.
So
have you thought of that before?
Totally.
Yeah.
And where my mind goes, it's a fun place in there. Lots of imaginative, and it's
all speculation.
Well, and it's also like, it speaks to the level of anxiety. So the way that I see it is like, reality is a mirror.
Yeah.
This whole thing is reflecting back to me where I'm not yet free. Period. All of the time, 100% is 100% of the time feedback loop. I was an anxious, like very unsure of herself, low self-worth, even though I presented as this highly confident, like really smart, like intelligent young woman. Under the surface, that undercurrent, it was fractured, it was masking essentially. And so it's not surprising to me that that's what I was magnetizing to myself, right? Like, we are electromagnetic beings. Like, what I would attract that type of attention from leaky masculine energy. In hindsight, I would put myself in a highly oppressive environment where anxiety is prized. That's going to make you a pretty good analyst. Your threat detection skills are on lack if you're a super anxious person, right? And you know this too from childhood trauma. It's like, I can walk in a room and I know immediately who's angry, who's upset, who's masking. I grew up around a lot of addiction too. So it's like, I could tell you story after story where it's like, if anyone around me is wearing, I don't wear a mask because I want to be a safe person. So I inherently, like, authenticity, I lay it all out there, kind of like the polygraph thing. It's like, this is what I got. This is it. And so that means my shadows are going to be out there and I'm going to see yours, and we're going to probably point them out for each other. And it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable probably. And there might be some really tough emotions that come out of that. But that's what we're here for, right? Because on the other side of that is liberation. It's all out there. And it makes complete sense to me if you're looking at it from an energetic, holographic reality, like where you're operating on the scale of consciousness, like I would put myself in that environment to be oppressed, to be controlled and manipulated. I'd be like, govern me harder, daddy. Like, that's kind of, I think, what we all do unconsciously on small scales and big scales, if we don't know what patterns we're running and operating and looping on, because they're so subconscious and unconscious, right? And I could even ask you the same question, like, what was the driver for West Point? Like, why did you want to go there? You know, you have to do a lot of work to go to West Point.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like a ton of work, you know?
Yeah. So to answer that question, I could answer it in a couple ways. So one is that was the only school that was recruiting me for basketball. That was a Division I school.
Okay.
I mean, that's like the God's honest truth. But then also, once I went to the recruit basketball camp, I realized like, oh, look how many Fortune 500 CEOs went here. And it was coming from an element of, or you could say the elephant in the room, that I felt incredibly unworthy. And so I had to cling to anything superficially that would make me feel better, and because I would look better in the eyes of other people because of my childhood.
Yeah.
That's absolutely where it stemmed from. That's why I ultimately wanted to go to West Point, even though they never offered me for basketball and all the things, right?
I almost went to the Naval Academy.
Really? That doesn't surprise me.
I know.
Yeah.
I also almost went into the Peace Corps after college. Is a very interesting polarity there. And it was because I had a conversation with an Army friend that I had grown up with, and he was like, don't do the Peace Corps. I'm going to have to come save you one day, because those people build wells and then they leave. And then it's like, he made a really great argument at the time. I was really trying to, how can I make the biggest impact? Like, that really was where my heart was. But if we're unconsciously operating from low self-worth and like all of that kind of stuff, like, we'll make another type of choice, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not surprising to me that I ended up in that system, because as a kid, and I decades of endometriosis, like debilitating menstrual cramps, like severe, like pass out, lose consciousness, I would call them pain comas for like 3 days at a time. I would lose out of my life. And so it doesn't surprise me that I ended up in like that environment, because it felt familiar. Again, an unconscious pattern. It would feel safe for me to be in an environment where, whether they knew or not, right? Like, have you seen, there's somebody that talks, some of us got pulled out of elementary school to like go wear the headphones, and we had to like raise our hands, and the STEM kids, you know.
Have you like heard about why they did that?
It's hard to like, I don't know if there's correlation there, because I've heard about why. And I'm like, yeah, I did all of that stuff. And it was weird at the time. It felt weird in my body. And then I ended up in this environment. And so to your other question, like, maybe somebody orchestrated all that. That would be insane.
It would be insane.
But you know what? I think we're about to hear a lot of insane stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I think, because the last 5 years have been insane. Like, there's been so much insanity. It just seems like everything we think we know about physical reality is about to get flipped on its head. And it's just ego death after ego death of what we think we know is true being shown to us. There's a deeper layer that's not accessible or wasn't before that is getting uncovered over and over again. Again, that holographic fractal reality of like getting to the truth. And so it's all related. Like, I was denying my intuition. I was taught to disconnect from this, I guess. I had to as a kid to survive. I also had to like kind of become a man. Like, I wanted a father's love so deeply that I had to fight, like, and deny my own femininity, which is what I think endometriosis and a lot of women's health issues are really at the root of that. But like with my pain flares, I don't want to even say my pain, but it was dismissed. It was ignored. It was threatened almost. Like, there were times that people that should have protected and loved and cared for me told me that if I didn't get up off the floor, even though I'm covered in vomit and blood, and like move, they were going to pick me up and put me in the car and take me to the hospital and take my organs out, because it shouldn't hurt that bad. Right? So it's like, that's a very specific energetic and a way to move through the world. And I didn't know safety. Like, I didn't know it for a long time. I didn't even know it existed for a long time. And so shutting this down, that's what was speaking to me, right? It's like, this seat of infinite intelligence, and it's like a phone line to God. It's like right there all the time, creation energy. Like endometriosis to me is leaky Shakti. Like literally there's a womb. It's a container. If Shakti energy, creation energy, isn't contained, it will destroy everything. It leaks out everywhere. Like Shiva, Shakti, the whole story is like, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I didn't know boundaries. And so I'd reach out for protection and safety from unsafe, even if they were well-meaning, even if they loved me. I think part of what I learned and what my message is like, we don't know love. We're taught that love is extraction. We're taught that love is how someone makes us feel. But love is a frequency. It's like a coherence. It it stabilizes all of that. And so, like what is the most loving choice when you're in those situations? Like to leave, really, that's like the most loving thing. But we're trained and programmed to abandon ourselves for survival, right? All through childhood, we pick up all of this programming and these things, and it's so unconscious, or big life experiences, whatever. So that's how it all connects to me now in hindsight. I'm like, oh my God, I ended up in this military situation. And that was just the beginning, was like before I even got into activity-based intelligence and that sort of thing. It was really, because I thought that would be safer.
Wow. So there's so many threads I want to pull on there.
Yeah.
Since we're already on the intelligence topic, I want to continue on with that if you feel it's best to, and then sort of go into what led you to your, like the part of your inner journey that made you realize like, this is no longer for me.
Yeah.
And then reflecting on, because you sort of go through this, in my experience, when you come from a lot of trauma, when you realize the trauma, right? Like the traumatic experiences and like what actually occurred. Right. You go through a phase where you're just really freaking angry and you're like pointing the finger at all those people who have victimized you. And I'll speak to my experience.
Yeah, that sounds like a healthy reaction.
Right. No, for sure. But and then
some
you come
of us
full
bypass
circle.
that and go to forgiveness.
Yeah.
And it's not a good choice.
No, and I've done that before too in individual situations related to my mom, and it ended up presenting health issues in my body, sort of denying the angry part of me. But I want to get to all that because that is like a super, super important thread to pull on.
Totally.
But with intelligence, so you're in this environment. Like we were talking off camera. I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about this next. Palantir. Yeah. Can we go there now?
Sure, let's go.
Okay. Yeah. Like what? I don't even know.
I'll just continue this story from so I was sitting at my desk one day.
Sorry, my mind is like, I have like 100 questions and I don't know how to distill them down to one. So you just go and then I'll interject what I feel I can.
This feels like my life. Yeah. I was sitting at my desk one day and this new guy popped up in this big division. And so where I began was kind of like a microcosm of the entire intelligence community. There was people from every agency in this space.
So you were working with NSA, CIA, like all of them.
Everybody was there, NRO, everybody. And and that's part of what I learned is like, somebody's got the keys. Somebody's got the like authority to drive collection. Somebody's got like the keys to a satellite. Like maybe one agency has keys to a satellite. Maybe another agency gets to prioritize collection or something like that, right? Like that's just one example.
And how much crosstalk was occurring between all of you coming from different agencies? Or was it so compartmentalized that it was expressly stated that you are not to crosstalk or only to a certain level with them? You get what I'm saying? Because
totally. I'm trying to think about how I want to answer it. Because there was a lot of crosstalk because of all of that 9/11 stuff.
Got it.
The whole point of this office, as I remember it, and maybe I'm remembering wrong, but like there were great efforts made to not stovepipe.
Okay.
Human ego, nepotism, like these are all other elements that,
of course, those elements are always
going
to come in.
I wonder what was really going on there. Also, I was a green badge. I was a contractor. So my experience was a little bit, I had a customer that I was working for. And so I wasn't like, walking around.
You weren't a green suiter. Is that what they call them? Like
the blue badge. Yeah.
Blue badge. Okay.
Yeah.
Green suiter would be like someone that was wearing, military.
But those, But like I wasn't, but I worked with those guys and the guys that were on my team were retired. And that's something else I learned. I'm like, they're all just shuffling around. I was like, oh, like, duh, of course. But I didn't realize how much that happens. And then as, you know, you get into looking at where the money is now, it's like, well, that guy just did a little tour over at Big Pharma. Now he's back here at this defense. And that's an interesting, you know, it's like real funny how that goes.
It is.
But yeah, I was sitting at my desk one day and this guy sat down next to me and he was new. He's like hot desking, like, because there weren't that many desks. And we hit it off. This guy and I were just like friends immediately. And he was like, what are you doing? Like, working this job? You're really smart. Like, what are you doing here? And basically finagled an interview for me to join this activity-based intelligence team.
Okay.
And my mentor was the guy who like literally wrote the book on activity-based intelligence.
And what is that? I don't even know what activity-based intelligence is.
So it's a methodology, I guess you could say, that is, the intention is to aggregate big data, like lots of different data sources. And there are a couple of fundamental pillars that differentiate from traditional intelligence. And this was like really new at the time. I caught a lot of heat when I joined this team and I said yes to this job from the Blue Badgers that were my friends, like, because I was young. And so I was like hanging out with these government employees basically. And they'd be like, you're going to sell us something, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, this is important. And this feeds into like a much larger conversation about AI, information in general, because the way I see it, I mean, we hear about, you know, the gig economy, like the billionaires of tomorrow aren't going to be the tech bros. They're the assemblers. They're the guys that know how to make, you know, all the different tradesmen work on the same project together and they can assemble a team. And it's how you are integrating information. It's not, the world might not be run by like introverts that are like, you know, the nerdy guys building Facebook anymore. It's different. And that's what I see with this activity-based intelligence. I was like, oh my gosh, they would take a ton of data, format it, and throw it onto the ground basically, and then let the patterns kind of like correlate themselves, right? So this was literally Donald Rumsfeld's like, how do we find the unknown unknowns? How do we find the things that we don't know that we don't know? And it's the known knowns. There's like a quadrant chart. And it's like things we know, things that we know, things that we don't know that we don't know, you know, and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, data neutrality, integration before we exploit, because traditionally it's like you get an image, you count the tanks, you count the things, right? And it's like, what are the changes over time? But with activity-based intelligence, you can incorporate algorithms and other technology to crawl things and set alerts. You can set parameters. If this happens 3 days in a row, alert this, or tip to this sensor, or cue that to thing, right? And like you can imagine how like intricate and amazing that could, powerful. Again, the integration of the data, that's the power. And information, in my opinion, these days is like not that cool anymore. Like everybody has a phone. You get 40 questions a day on chat or whatever. It's like everybody's got access to this new, it's what you do with that information. And so it felt really exciting and such an honor to be like working on this and even just throwing these ideas into the intelligence community, because a lot of people were having faces like you have right now. They're like, how is this going to work? Like, how does this happen? And so what I was building was, I was an analyst on a team of engineers, so a lot of systems engineering, to say, this is not going to work for an analyst. Can you build the software that integrates all of this data and these weapon systems and this and this and this, so that it's actually like a usable product? Because that was another thing that I learned that I just remembered. After I left the DoD, I did like a short stint at SPA War in San Diego.
What's that?
Space and naval warfare. Like,
okay.
It's like big Navy, but tier down. So not like, it's still like development and stuff. And I thought it would be like less bureaucratic than I've experienced in the DoD side of things. But it was really messy. But what I realized there, what I was thinking, what I learned was like, well, I would talk to guys who were out on the carriers and on the boats, submarines, things like that. They wouldn't even know that certain software was available to them. Like there'd be racks of software and they weren't using it. And so that was another part of the intention of this. It's like, I want to make something usable. Like I want to make something useful. That's not just another $60 million contract from the government that just gets put on a boat and nobody ever sees it or uses it. And so, yeah, that's what I was working on in the intelligence community, was like building something that integrates all that data and helps the warfighter do their job better. And that's what I thought I was doing. Yeah. And does that explain activity-based intelligence?
I mean, yeah. Like, could you give me like a practical application of how it would have been used? Yeah.
I'll just do a really high level example. So like, say something happens on the ground, like maybe there's a sensor from a ship, like we get a SIGINT hit, right? Signals intelligence somewhere at a port. And that means that they're going to leave. And usually we know when that ship powers up, they're going to leave in 3 days. And
we're talking about like a so-called enemy ship.
Right. Yeah, adversary, right. Some type of other country, right? That's why I'm avoiding specific country names, because I don't want to get too specific, but like, yeah, Russia.
I mean, I can probably, maybe I could say this and you can just like not make any facial expressions, but
confirm nor deny.
I know that when I was leaving the Army, and even before I graduated from West Point, there's a lot of talk about this. Like we're moving from coin operations, which are like counterinsurgency operations, to more like, I forget the exact term, but large scale combat. And there was a lot of attention attention on Russia, on China, and on North Korea at the time.
And that's how I ended up at Paycom at the JIAC in Hawaii.
That makes sense.
Because I was doing R&D when I was in DC, and I was traveling a lot, but it was all R&D. And I think that they asked me, I had never been programmed. I didn't have a background in military intelligence, anything. Like I was a fresh slate, and I would ask really off the wall questions like, do we have to do it that way? Do we have to like do this? And they called me like a hippie. They were like, who's this flower child? Like, you know what I mean? Because I was so, I think feminine too. There's like that sort of quality to the way that I move, have always been. But
back to the real world application.
Yeah. Like, So like, maybe there's a submarine. I mean, this is like elusive. This was a big, big problem for the Navy at the time, especially, and I think about this a lot, like the Navy hasn't really fought a war in like 50 years, so like all this stuff that's going down now, Iran, all these things, like it's interesting to me because it's not the same for the Army. The Army's been, surface to air stuff is very different than sea to sea combat.
Yep.
And so it's really going to be fascinating, I think, to see. But the submarine situation was part of why I went out to Hawaii to work with those folks there so that we could like infuse this type of thinking and methodology into the way we're like approaching the problems and all the things, the challenges that they were experiencing. And so like tracking if there's a sub, if there's not a sub, where the subs go, are there patterns associated with when they're demagnetized, all the things that go along with different elements.
Okay, so it makes sense now. I'm seeing the difference between activity based versus like geography based,
right,
which is
like
what you're
a
doing
static
before.
picture,
static
right?
thing. Now you're taking a lot of data based on activity to come up with patterns in order to make decisions that are based in algorithms, that are based in percentage values of like, oh, given historically, anytime this ship would do this, that ship would do that. And ultimately 90% of the time this would occur. So there's a high likelihood that this occurs. So we need to watch out for this, which then triggers that type of situation, essentially.
And it's much deeper than that. Yeah. And I'm not being coy, but I'm just trying to be sensitive, I think, to like know where the edge is of what I should talk about, I guess. Like,
and is it ultimate, like, question on that real quick, and like this is for me and also for the audience. Is it more that because you contractually signed on to that, like even though I'm sure there are elements of you like, I want to be able to say this so much, but ultimately I signed a contract and I don't want to end up like the other whistleblowers who, yeah. Okay.
That's a big part of it because I also have
not out of
so
fear,
much,
but you like signed on to it. You literally, like
Yes.
you signed that
and
contract.
I don't remember. Like it was so long ago. Like, you know, if there was something that I felt truly deeply in my bones, like I have exact memory of, I know that this is what you know what I mean? Like I would absolutely, if that felt true, like I would say so.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel necessary to the overall message or to convey what I actually experienced.
That makes sense.
But also I really respect and like love a lot of the people that I worked with. And I know that they're, you know, like their intentions and that sort of thing. And I was also like married to someone for a while who was active duty, like boots on the ground kind of thing. And I saw totally other. So I have the strategic as well as a tactical view of how all of this fits together. And I saw the power in marrying those two things, like this activity-based intelligence. It's patterns of life. It's, can we fuse the SIGINT, the MASINT, the human, the ELINT, the OSINT, like all of that together? Can we format our data, homogenize it enough so that when we throw it all onto a map or into a database, the patterns just reveal themselves in a way, or we can like let that kind of reveal itself. And that felt really powerful and beautiful to me. What I didn't realize was like, that's kind of mimicking intuition. So that's what I think about Palantir in a lot of ways.
Oh, interesting.
And AI in general, because a lot of technology is just a mimic of nature.
A mimic that is
an inversion or perversion. Yeah, like perversion. It's not just the mimic, right? Yeah. It's a recreation, and that is dangerous in a lot of ways. If you're operating from shadow, if you're unconscious, and that's what I mean, literally my whole life has been discernment. How do we set, like reclaiming my own masculine containment to then see the truth and then act from that place. And I've had to make really hard decisions. Like I see this person is loving and kind and has good intentions, but they're operating from an old paradigm. And I mean, I have a lot to say about that with respect to the health and that sort of thing. Cause like what do you do with the information is the big question. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to put it behind a paywall and create a course? Are you going to build like a revolving door medical practice that's rooted in holistic stuff, but is actually just the same thing that we came from, you know, with this allopathic model, but it looks different because you're using supplements or whatever it is, you know, like if you had knowledge of a methodology, again, like whether it's for the human body or intelligence, you know, tracking patterns of life in ships, people, and like all of this stuff is applicable across the board, like where Wendy's puts their freaking, you know, gross hamburgers on the road, whatever, like,
right.
Like what do you do with that information? Do you build a Wendy's? Do you put it behind a paywall? Do you build the medical practice? Or do you just like share it? Because information is everywhere and like other people are going to be able to discern, right? For me and where I'm at these days, it's like, I will tell any and everyone my story and my experience because it's mine and it's the filter through which I'm like navigating physical reality. But also, I can't stand the thought of another girl like on the floor by herself, covered in her vomit, like with nobody to help her, and her just laying there wondering like, what did I do to deserve this? Why is this happening to me? And why can't anyone help me? I mean, I could tell you story after story. I was in the ER and the doctors like put me out in the lobby because I refused a pelvic exam because the guy was making me really uncomfortable. And so I sat in a gown in the lobby, right? But at the same time, it's like, I see that play out over and over again, these control systems. It's like, we give the information and then we create community. There's other ways. Do you trust God? Basically, it's like fear or love. Like, do you trust God enough that if you have information that would help expand other people, open world awareness, change somebody's worldview, do you share it or do you gatekeep it? Do you hide it? Do you, you know, how are you relating to that information? And that's part of the Palantir conversation because I'm like, we could easily give our power away to something that's mimicking our own internal compass, you know?
That's a larger question I have. Like, I see that you're still wrestling with like cognitive dissonance, understandably, on like how the mechanisms of the various control structures actually work. Like, I almost feel like you're still trying to figure out, are these people at the tippy top, whoever quote they are they people who have just severely lost their way, or are they like fundamentally operating from evil? And like,
I actually do have like I feel clearer on that these days, but keep going.
Yeah. I want to set that aside because like
it's one of my favorite conversations.
Yeah. Because I have a lot of like, there's levels to how I approached answering that.
Yes.
Myself personally,
totally.
like, and I'd love to hear your take. But before we even get there, do you feel that an sophisticated AI information gathering system like Palantir that is integrating so many different facets in order to, like, aggregating data from so many different areas, you mimicking quote intuition just through this very worldly based pattern recognition, do you feel that it is intentionally created for nefarious purposes, or is it a product of a group of people amongst mankind who have completely lost their way because they themselves were traumatized and didn't have the tools to reconnect with that part of them? So they are then outsourcing to a materialistic paradigm and building solutions there while continuing to deny the innate technology inside of them. Did that question make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that made sense. And it was beautiful. And I love that question. And it's one that I ask myself all the time. And I really want to have the whole conversation with more people because it's kind of the root of everything we're talking about. My answer comes from a couple of different, like, and this is just where I'm at with it now. Obviously, it could evolve, but like, my answer is no. I do think it's shadow. I think it's shadow because of the shadows I came from. I think it's entirely possible for someone like my relationship to evil.
Do you think it's the latter of what I said, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, because
broken people, not fundamentally evil people creating it for intentionally nefarious purposes.
Yeah, because of my own personal experience with evil. If that is true, then I would have to put my caregivers in that evil category because of how they behaved. And this is why love became like my superpower, because my trauma response, my shadow, is loving people who abuse me. That's a lot of people's trauma response, but they don't even know that's a trauma response. We talk about people pleasing and stuff like that. But I mean, like, if someone's kicking you, can you still love them? If someone's hitting you, what can you choose love in that moment? Like, if someone is, because it's all, again, the fractal. And if we are disowning or afraid to look at any part of ourself, it will be reflected to us, I think, in some way, shape, or form, because that, I think, is the end game. Like, the whole goal of this physical experience, in my opinion, is like learning love, real, true love. Again, we don't understand love, truth, freedom, nature, source. Those words are synonymous to me. They are all the same.
I agree.
And it's like when we operate, we're all unconscious to some level, or we wouldn't be here. We'd be enlightened. Like, we're all operating with some level of shadow. How am I going to treat myself when my shadows are exposed? How would I treat a child, right? Like, that's really what's at the, are babies evil? Is like a deer evil? Like, does it need to know trauma in order to like remember its instincts? You know what I mean? Like, there's this bigger question when it comes to evil and shadow and nefarious stuff and how the proverbial they are operating in the world. And it makes sense to me from where I sit right now, my own personal experience and everything I've learned, that you could operate from a really deep, dark shadow and not even be able to see the potential, just because it's that scary to look in the mirror and see that part of you. But on the inverse of that, it's like the more truth I admit to myself about myself, the more truth the creator of this realm seems to bestow upon me. I get answers, or God shows up for me in ways that do not make any logical sense. Like, I've been living intuitively in 2020, once I walked away from all of this and I left my marriage and became nomadic because things were getting really crazy. It doesn't actually make sense, like how I should have sustained myself financially, like how I'm so healthy now after being so debilitating. I'm pretty sure I had colon cancer while I was in Hawaii at one point.
Was that involving anger in any way?
I have a whole thing about. So
I have also.
Your girl's angry. This girl's angry. She got a lot of anger.
That's why I bring it up.
Totally.
So
but it's deeper than that to me, because like from a metaphysical perspective, this is the way I approach everything in life.
Yeah.
And I have like a little bit of a framework that I'm working with these days. Like, okay, something's showing up in my body. Colon. It's my colon. I'm having root chakra issues. Colon sounds like colony. Interesting. My colon is the most ancient part of my body. It's a colony of bacteria. Is my body trying to decolonize itself? What I haven't mentioned is like part of the reason I took the job in Hawaii was because my mom had a terrible accident. I had gone through 2 really big breakups within a year, and I had moved home to try and help for a little while, and I was commuting. I was running myself into the ground. It makes a lot of sense, like everything tied to the colony, the empire, these systems of oppression, control. Like, my body was like, get out. Save yourself. Like, please remove yourself from these dynamics of stuff. It saved me moving to Hawaii because literally the symptoms were there. It was intense, and I lost a ton of weight out of nowhere. I'm 5'8". I was a 00. Like, my clothes were falling off of me. It was serious.
Yeah.
If I hadn't moved, I don't know what would have happened. Like, I don't know what would have happened if I stayed in that environment. So yeah, I was still in the control system. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's that paradox again of like this thing that's oppressive, but isn't fully, it's better than where I was.
Yeah.
I was able to see a new side of it, but I was still in the shadow. There's a lot there, but like, yeah, our bodies like communicating to us, like, how can we look at this metaphysically? What's really going on here? What's being mirrored to me? Save my life. And my imagination too. But yeah, like there was a lot that went down within my family unit that was a lot like me. My body was trying to decolonize itself, like with these symptoms. Like people with ulcerative colitis, all of my clients tend to have real serious, like deep, like ancestral. Think of the words like ulcerative. It's like deep and inflammation. It's like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Was that your experience too?
Well, so I'll just share mine briefly. I never was formally diagnosed with colon cancer, and I wouldn't ever go get a biopsy or anything like that.
Same.
But I had all the hallmark symptoms of colon cancer, and this was about 1.5 years ago now. And at the time, I had started to re-engage with my mom. We have not spoken in nearly 4 years now. Ultimately, I wouldn't want a relationship with her at this point either. And I'm like, I've genuinely come to terms with that. I would be lying to myself if I said I'm still not sometimes sad that I don't have a relationship with my mom.
Totally.
It's like someone who says like, yeah, I've already done all the healing. Like, no, okay, you're clearly someone.
That's a big red flag.
Huge red flag.
Buckle up.
Same thing. Yeah. So like I'm at a place where I feel good.
Yeah.
But it's still sad because it's my mom, and she ultimately cut me off because I have a relationship with my dad. Because my dad apologized for everything that happened from when I was younger, and I'm not going to hold it against him, but she is still working through a lot of her victimhood, really, like for lack of a better term, like that is probably the best term to describe it. She's still working through a lot of her victim, and her identity is wrapped up in a lot of the stuff from the past. And, it's a sad situation, but point is I had started re-engaging with her, and with my sister. And then they abruptly decided to cut me off again, but then they would enter back in and then cut me off again and then enter back in and cut me off again, despite like no behavioral changes on my part, genuinely. Like I'm talking like,
right. It wasn't like an event happened and then there was
nothing, not a thing. Like me, and it's not just me, my wife and my now 3 kids.
Yeah.
So
yanked around.
And I got to a place where I think in hindsight, I felt anger coming up, but I just wanted to feel compassion for my mom. And then the symptoms came on pretty hard for a few months, and it really scared my wife. So she had me take like an at-home screening for it. And the screening was positive. I don't think that was sufficient to say that I had, quote, cancer, but nonetheless, like that was positive. I had all the symptoms and I had them for a period of time. They're getting increasingly concerning.
Totally.
And I instantly knew that, okay, I have a lot of anger towards my mom. I then do a biofield tuning session with Eileen without me saying anything that's going on aside from, hey, I have some concerning symptoms and I might have colon cancer. Eileen says, Alec, you have so much anger, like just anger down there that you're not dealing with. And then in German New Medicine, again, didn't know this before until I looked it up, colon cancer relates to indigestible anger. Mm-hmm. Other frameworks like Paul Leendertz with his root cause work, he talks about it being shame, basically shame that you're still harboring or a shameful triggering situation. But it's interesting because it could be either of the two, because a lot of my identity growing up was tied to my mom, where I was her surrogate father, surrogate husband. When my dad went to rehab, I was her caretaker. And I couldn't feel safe unless she was safe. And anytime she was upset at me, I felt horrible about myself, right? Because I was like so enmeshed. And here my mom has rejected me. So it brought up all the shame wounding over the last 4 years that I'm grateful for now in hindsight, right? But the point being, like, that's where that came from. And I did a lot of work to feel anger. Like there was a piece of me for some time. I used to project my anger onto people, like physically.
Yeah.
Never, my wife, we've been together since we were 16, but like situation where I'd be at a bar, one of my friends gets pushed, and I use that as an excuse to beat the shit out of that guy, you know, like under the guise of like, oh, it was right defense, but no, like it was me projecting my anger on other people,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And then as I started journeying into consciousness and doing inner work, the pendulum swung to the other end of the spectrum, where I had this sort of unspoken but subconscious belief, maybe even conscious belief, that anger is bad. So then I would stuff all of it down. And I think I was starting to come around to understanding, like, no, I need to feel angry. And then this situation occurred, and I was finally like that. No. Like anger is very important to feel, just not projected onto other people. So sorry, that was very long-winded, but that was my experience with it.
Incredible share, obviously, but I have a question, if you don't mind me asking. Do you tend toward depression? Like, does sadness feel easy for you?
Yeah, sadness can.
Me
for
too.
Sure.
Yeah. So that was because I was also an anger repressor. Mm-hmm. And that's very common, I think. Like sadness and anger to me are like two sides of the same coin. And usually we're attracted to people who like are the opposite. So like I would not allow myself to get angry, but I would enter relationship after relationship with real angry guys, big, like basketball player types who would knock somebody out at a bar if they looked at me the wrong way. You know, they're punching holes in walls and things like that. And that made me feel safe. Mm-hmm. But that was really, I mean, that's really the crux of everything I'm talking about here. Like what you're describing, unconsciously, we are perpetuating these systems of oppression and control because you fighting the guy at the bar, like, you know, and this is just such a big conversation. It shows up in so many different ways, but it's like, we don't actually realize what's at the root of all that or what's trying to be revealed in all of that. And so we put ourselves in these situations that feel familiar to us to move. Like speaking of Eileen, like the biofield, like I imagine it in my mind energetically. It looks like we all are just like these big rainbow balls of light, and we're just bumping around, walking the earth. And sometimes when the energy can't flow, there's like a crunchy piece and a sludgy piece and a dark piece and those are the dense emotions, the shadows, the things that we repress because we didn't have the tools or the support system or the knowledge of how to process it or where to put it. You didn't have anywhere to put that anger as a kid. Nobody is modeling that for you, right? And same with me. I got in trouble if I was angry. Yeah. Not only did I get in trouble, but if I spoke truth, which happened all the time, little Erin was like asking a lot of interesting questions. It was really religious, dogmatic upbringing.
That was your environment. Oh.
And so it was like, I'd be like, well, why do I have to go to church? I don't believe in all of this like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting in church and being pissed, like they're playing the organ wrong. Like I could hear like the frequency, you know what I mean? Like we know, we rock up here, like knowing, yep. And then it's like beat out of us or into us or whatever it is, like our experience here in whatever capacity, but then we perpetuate those things. And so yes, becoming more conscious, but what you did ripples out on so many levels. Like you become a safe masculine energy then out in the world. And there's a big shift that happens. And that's what I'm seeing. Like we don't hold space for men and their emotions. Most of the men, even the ones that have really hurt me, they are more sensitive than I am. And I cry every day. Like I am a sensitive woman. But it's this like collective programming, it's not safe to be angry or sad or whatever. And men don't learn the tools that they need in order to like actually show up as healthy, provider, protector energy. And that it connects to this conversation that we're having about AI and all this stuff, because I look at history and I'm like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
How? You mean to tell me, I mean, this is like a silly example, but like, you really mean to tell me that the king who built Versailles, he just sat around getting fat and like murdering anyone that didn't want to build his castle, but like also like stole their wives and had sex with them and men just allowed that? I look at men even with big, deep, dark, scary shadows, and I just don't think that they would have allowed that. I'm like, I know enough men to know that wouldn't happen. No. Would you allow that to happen? Right.
No.
Exactly. And so I'm like, there's something that we're missing here. Intentional, nefarious, otherwise, like you're asking this bigger question of like, did somebody plant that to make you uncomfortable? And like, I don't know, because now that I know what I know about water and what I know about sunlight and what I know about consciousness, I'd argue that maybe, I don't know, like I remember as a kid, it didn't sit well with me that there were no bathrooms in those castles. I was like, where are the bathrooms? Like, where did they go to the bathroom?
You thought that back then?
As a kid, I was like, dinosaurs don't make any how did they have sex? Tell me, a T-Rex, have you seen Komodo dragons doing it?
No.
It's a shit show.
Really?
They fall off each other. Like it doesn't...
I'm just laughing because you're thinking about the
over,
Tartarian like little stuff when you were a kid. You're like,
I knew it. I'm like, where are the bathrooms? And so now I'm like, chamber pots are disgusting. You mean to tell me a man woke up and he pooped in this bowl and then put it under his bed and then went back to sleep? Like, no, he didn't.
Way. Yeah.
It's such bullshit. And there's so much. And that's what I was picking up on in the Intel community. I'd be like, wait, what? That's how you've been doing this? That doesn't make sense, right? That's the process to get what you need in order to do your job. I'm like, no. But really now I'm like, okay, the Druids had the holy forests and they protected these sacred little forests where there were springs. I know enough about water to know that sounds pretty magical and there's something going on there. And they knew things that maybe we don't know now. But if you look at all of these big, huge, beautiful churches, they're always built on top of springs. Like, why are these beautiful cymatic buildings built on top of this water, right? We know enough about fourth fifth. We know what's going on here. Now we're harnessing energy, etheric energy. Again, what are you going to do with the information? You're getting downloads in that. If you're in that space, playing the organ the way it's meant to be played and all the frequencies, what are you doing with that information? Are you putting it behind a paywall? Are you hiding it? Or are you going to write a book and tell the world? Or are you going to share it with everyone? Are you going to create community? Like, which feels like love and which feels like fear? Which feels like protecting yourself and like trying to stay hidden in the shadows. Because if people saw all of you, maybe you wouldn't be able to identify, like, or have an identity, right? Like if you make it your identity. And so I know it's like a big stretch to say all of this is connected, but in my mind it is. Like you processing your emotions to access more truth allows us to put our puzzle pieces on the table, and all of us can say, oh my God, I know that puzzle piece. And then this person over here is going to say, well, I don't think they had bathrooms because they didn't defecate the same way, because they lived in harmony with natural rhythms and cycles. And so their waste looks very different, and it was used as soil. And maybe Versailles was a farm and not just, you know, a big castle where they shit behind the curtains and stuff, like, because that's the story that they tell us. It's like it was a dump and that everybody smelled bad. I'm like, there's just no way.
Mm-hmm.
Even the clothes, like, just tangent. Like, would you ever wear a wig?
No.
Like they did, like the founding fathers. No. I know. And like the little capris and the booties. Like, that's what I mean. Like men wouldn't do that. No. So what is really the truth here? Because I find it really, I know it sounds silly, but it's like, there's more going on here. And everybody's going to have a little piece of the puzzle. In my mind, that's how it works. As long as we are willing to unmask ourselves. Yeah. And that comes down to recognizing, why did that guy at the bar piss me off? Why does it piss me off that that person isn't, you know, doing what I want them to do? Or like, what in me am I repressing? What in me am I not willing to look at and love? Because that's what's being mirrored to me. And then it's infecting because we're all coming from the same source. It's all the same thing, you know? And that's why I'm like, how do you have the whole conversation? Because my life has been just connecting these dots of being like, my father, like the first time I had an ovarian cyst rupture, I was alone. It was my sophomore year of college. Everyone had gone home for fall break. And I remember I stayed because I just loved being alone and I wanted to write a paper. I put pizza rolls in the oven and I just woke up to the smoke and the beep, beep of all the things because I had passed out from a pain flare. Oh, wow. My cyst, they told me it was the size of a grapefruit. That's how much fluid was left in and this was hours and hours later. Horrific story. I finally get to the hospital. My father drives what should have been a 3-hour drive in an hour and a half to get to me. Wow. My boyfriend at the time was there and they had just moved me from ultrasound to a new room. So I wasn't in the room like where like my father, they took him to, and I could hear him down the hall. Like that security guard had about 30 seconds to find me, or my dad was going to do something, probably like Alec at a bar. Yeah. Right. That doesn't mean to say that my dad didn't also inflict extreme pain and suffering on me, right? Because seeing me in pain scared him. Yeah. He was so terrified when I was on the floor and he was powerless to do anything. I mean, I know he'd move a mountain for me, but also he forced me to get up and be a man, right? Like, and that was disconnecting me from my power and ultimately not protecting me. So that it's the evil conversation, right? Like, where are we creating from? What are we really creating here in this physical realm? Veda told that story about Samuel Finley Breese Morse at Confluence I have been telling that story for years. It's one of my favorite ways to convey technology and what we're creating. That man, Morse code was derived. He didn't want anyone else to experience heartbreak the way that he did, because he went to DC to paint Lafayette and got a knock on the door, and his wife was sick, is what he was told because the telegram. But by the time he got home, she was already buried. She was in the ground. That heartbreak, he went from being a painter, dots and lines on a canvas, you know, capturing the ineffable of a beautiful scene, onto a static, decoupled time and space. Mm-hmm. And then he did the reverse, turned those dots and lines into something that would make time and distance ineffable. Mm. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so beautiful to me, like that. And then she added on the rain and, hearing the kids' names or whatever and he was like, is this Lucretia, my wife? And like, who's to say? I don't know. Maybe that's a romanticized story. I don't care. No, I'm going to romanticize the crap out of my life because it's saved my life. Yeah. That's the only way I would have left those environments and those systems of oppression if I couldn't imagine a better life or a better world, you know?
Yeah. What was the impetus for you to leave finally?
It was like choose life or die.
Wow.
I was really, really sick. My face was covered in acne. I could barely function. And so I quit thinking it was the work. It was my job. And I was married for like a year longer. And I remember I was on the phone with my sister and I was joking with her. And I said, she was like, what would you do if you just like didn't have pain next month? Like, what would you do? And I was like, I would leave. It just like flew out of my mouth. And then my ex-husband like deployed and he was gone and I didn't have pain. And I thought, oh no, like my body is a lie detector. It's a truth detector and it is speaking to me all of the time. And so, yeah, like for a good I left. And that was like early 2020. And I didn't have another pain flare again until like almost the end of that year. And again, it was like when I reconnected with my family, because I've also been no contact with my family. I've gone back once in 5 years, 6 years, I guess, to make sure that I made the right decision. Because I just, again, new awareness, new events, new experiences, and a lot of love. Like everything I've done is because I can love them better with the boundaries that I have in place. I can see them as a hurt young person. Like my parents crawled out of hell to create a life for me. It doesn't mean that the way they treat me is still okay, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I hope it won't always be this way. Just like I'm sure you hope it won't always be this way.
I hope it won't always be this way.
Right. But it's like, this is where we're all at right now. And the way that I can keep myself safe, because I've now learned how to do that and see, if this resonates and if it's not, right? And then act from a place of love. I don't have to vilify anyone. I don't have to say, and other people, you're wrong or you're bad, right? Bill Gates and Peter Thiel, like we could have all these conversations as like the big bad boogie monster type thing, but what are we really perpetuating there?
See, this is like such a big question, because how do we approach drawing awareness to things for general knowledge for people without outsourcing our own power and saying this individual has power over me? And that is like the big question that I like have a feeling inside of me of what the answer is, but it's like hard to articulate what it is. And I like try to toe the line between, like, to where it's both, right? Because like you take, for example, right, what just happened recently in Texas. As of the time of this recording just a few days ago, that was absolutely tragic and very likely at least partially the result of weather modification. It's almost like overt at this point, right?
I've been blown away. I've been in Austin for a month. I can't believe the sky. Like the weather here is bizarre.
It's so bizarre.
It's crazy. I didn't expect.
And it's never accurate either. Like usually,
ever.
Obviously, it's like a running joke that weather forecasters are the only people who can retain their job by being consistently wrong.
Is that an accident?
But with that being said, like this last year in particular, this last few months really, the forecast will literally call for complete sun with no chance of rain, and then it rains where we're living multiple times, or vice versa.
It's crazy.
It's wild. And so this is a perfect micro example of what I'm getting at here. It's like, okay, this is very likely the result of weather modification. And it's very easy to look at, for example, like the Rainmaker CEO and be like, that evil, evil motherfucker. Like that's what the inclination is to say, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. Like for some people, right? Like I could see where a lot of my audience is like, how could you do this? And
totally valid.
Right?
Absolutely.
And then at the same time, are we then just reinforcing that by constantly pointing the finger? And when you understand the energetics of how this realm works, or I've experienced it myself, let's say, you're giving more thought energy towards that. It's like the weird conundrum where more people wake up to weather modification, which is, I think, a good thing, but are also failing to wake up to the deeper reality that our perpetual thought energy oriented towards something collectively only gives rise to that thing and exacerbates that thing, helps that thing grow. So as more people wake up to weather modification and are focusing on literally any weather pattern that comes their way and thinking, oh my goodness, is this going to be another modified storm? Is this going to somehow turn into a tornado really fast? I've had those thoughts myself sometimes, and I have to catch them. It's like, wow, what happens when a whole collective of people is perpetually doing that, knowing that the Maharishi effect is very well established at this point? Or if, maybe that's too far-fetched for some people, maybe just like the placebo effect or nocebo effect rather, on like a mass scale, mass psychogenic illness, like Daniel Roitz's talks about. But the point I'm getting at is like, how do we balance out both? Like drawing awareness to what is true about reality or like some of the hidden things, and also not feed it more of it.
Absolutely. And I had the same sort of conundrum. I posted a video a while back on social media, and it was totally unrelated, but people were like so worked up about the chemtrails that were in the video. That's like all that was being focused on. Like in the background, they're like, wow, she's making a great point, but like, look at those chemtrails. It's like, that's the trap. That's a trap. Anytime we other or we point a finger outside of ourself, in my opinion, in my experience, I think the false matrix has us. Yeah. I think that's like how we know we're giving our power away to something, right? Because to me, like I've said, it's like all a mirror. And we could go back all the way to Charles Hatfield, early 1900s. Have you heard about this guy in San Diego? He almost flooded San Diego. They paid him. He was like a shoe salesman or something. And he was like messing with the chemicals, and they paid him because it hadn't rained in San Diego. It literally almost washed the city away because it rained too much. He didn't get paid. We've been at this a long time. And so my argument is like, why am I healthier now? Why are you seem pretty healthy?
Yeah. Feel healthy.
And yet all of this is happening, right? We see the destruction, and it doesn't discount the suffering. This is where it gets slippery with the evil conversation, because it's like there is suffering. There are people who are sick, but why am I healthy? Now the cognitive dissonance is real funny, because I'm like, I didn't know about that and I was sick. I didn't know about chemtrails and I was miserable, sick. There were all sorts of things going on. The way I approach it, and this is everything, we are inundated with too much information. These phones, like we're scrolling, we're not meant to see worldwide catastrophes all the time, right? But it's interesting what we are shown. And there's something about that I think needs to be made, right? Why do we get to see Ukraine, but only when we are shown Ukraine? Like no one's talking about it as much, but there are still people suffering there, right? Like Gaza, in my opinion, and because this is all connected in a big wave, and maybe this is a way to like, talk about the things that are too far-fetched for people to grasp right now. But it's like, if I can't stop what I'm doing and allow myself to feel the grief that is rising when I see these kids floating in a cabin down a river, or a mother pulling her child from the rubble in Gaza, like if I can't slow down and allow that to surface, whatever it is in me, then I'm doing a disservice to humanity. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I am collectively, like if I can't pause to grieve with that mother or those parents or whatever it is, like that is the game we're playing. Authenticity is the currency, the current of the sea. These admiralty laws you want to talk about, it's all connected to me. And it comes down to emotions, like feel whatever is true about what you're witnessing. If you're othering someone, if they're hurting you, acknowledge that and then use that as data. It's a data point, right? Your anger is valid. Anger is a very, very useful tool to set boundaries and to say, no, this doesn't, I would never want to take food out of somebody else's mouth, but not everybody gets to sit at my table these days. That is not the way I used to operate. I have this thing on social media where it just became a thing. I say, hi, hello, I love you. Every time I get on my stories, people say it to me now. And it's like a very freeing feeling. But I don't know if people realize like that's a part of my shadow, like a huge part of my shadow, because I led with loving people, especially people that weren't safe to receive my love because they might do something with it that wasn't actually for like good, right? Unconscious. And it's funny you're bringing up weather modifications. This is kind of a left turn, but I'd love to hear what you say. I dated this Top Gun instructor for a little while, and I brought chemtrails up to him, and he had such a reaction. It was remarkable. Like a grown man was like having a temper tantrum. It was almost like a Stockholm syndrome thing. Like he'd been brainwashed, right?
Yeah.
It's like, do we call that guy evil?
No.
Like that guy, these unwitting characters acting out these archetypes, you know what I mean?
Totally.
So it just,
and that's
like,
the overwhelming majority of people, if not everyone. Like, and that's where I'm like,
yeah.
There's one side of me is like, what's the point of even trying to figure out like the true intentions of Bill Gates? Like, who fucking cares? Like, is that gonna serve you in your life whether you do figure it out? And on the flip side of me, just because of like I'm always trying to figure out the nature of this realm, is everyone, literally everyone, who is committing what we would agree to say is an act of evil, not like them fundamentally evil, but like an act that is not in the best interest of other human beings. Are they purely operating from their unconscious shadow, or are they actually knowingly like the evil character that's like rubbing their hands together and doing this with their fingers, you know? And I've even thought about, even if that is the case, I've read some material, and maybe the material that I've read has informed my entertaining this possibility. But it could make sense that, let me preface this by saying, I look back at COVID, I look back at my childhood trauma, everything that I've been through, and I can say that I'm genuinely grateful for it. Like genuinely grateful, no matter how hard it was, no matter how much some of those triggers still come up within me, very grateful for it on a number of levels.
Totally.
And is it possible that these individuals, if they are indeed acting consciously, maliciously, carrying out evil, or even unconsciously, that they sign an agreement prior to entering into this life that, hey, I am going to act as a catalyst for mankind to help you all go through some fucking really hard shit that will ultimately help you understand the importance and the depth and the richness of love on the back end.
Mic drop. That's the way I reconcile a lot of what I've been through too. And things like Hitler, you know, like what if you found out you were Hitler in a past life, you know, like whatever. And we've got evidence of reincarnation these days, but it's like, play with these ideas, like play with possibility and see what opens up. I even see it even more like you zoom out even more, like we're told that we're like human species on this rock that's hurling through space. And, you know, the dinosaurs got wiped out by this big rock that came. And that seems really disempowering of a story, like just to set the scene. You know, I'm joking about the founding fathers and their capris and their wigs and things like that from a masculinity perspective. But really, like, what if we found out all of that was a lie? What if these characters, celebrities, they only exist because we care about them, like you're saying? Characters, we care about them. Like it's like revealing its truth is always in plain sight, in my opinion, and it's always quiet. Like it's always real quiet, and rarely is it loud, but sometimes it's loud. But you know, it's like, if we zoom out to this disempowering story, this storyline that we've been told, that a lot of us rock up here and we're like, this doesn't make sense. Like me as a kid, I'm like, what do you mean? These dinosaurs, look at his arms. He would have fallen over and not gotten up if he was trying to mate with a girl T-Rex. That doesn't make any sense. Why are they so scary? And then I learn about dragons and I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't feel so scary. And like, this one kind of looks interesting. I wonder, you know what I mean? It's like you
look at the zodiac and you're like,
the zodiac, and there's numbers now, right? And numbers used to be magic. Numbers used to be, I think, the way that we communicated. They were the thing that the anchor between the physical and the etheric. And so it's all sound. We know that, and that's math. That's numbers. The Solfeggio, you know, you start adding it up, and you start the 369 and all these little triplets that expand out forever. And I guess my point is just like, if we keep zooming out, like aliens, if there's no room for aliens in your worldview, you're probably operating from a limitation. But if the aliens come, they're not going to communicate with like just your ear or like one cell of your eye. They want to talk to all of you. And that's we are told we're the species on the rock hurtling through space, but like we're all of the earth. It's the same minerals. The building blocks that create the physical world are us. And so we're not operating that way though. And obviously we can get like love and light about it, duh. But there's like we can tune our frequency. And I think it comes down to trusting this benevolent force that is ultimately good. Love, the truth of the realm. Yeah. And like all of it is love, I guess is my point. All of it, we can choose to see all of it as love. And that is indicative of the level of consciousness that we're operating from.
Yeah.
And it goes back to these other epochs of human civilization that were probably operating from a different level of consciousness, but were they connected to their heart? Were they able to stay connected to love with the vast amounts of data, with access to higher states of consciousness, all of that? And what are we going to do with that? Because it really feels like we're on the precipice of defining that. And I think it gets discounted, and we're conditioned to think that we don't have control over what happens out in the world.
Totally agree.
But you are proving this every time one of these big events, you sit and you meditate. And you hold space for yourself and the people that energy you're tapping into, because if it lives in them, it's living in you. And if you haven't looked it in you, it's going to feel uncomfortable, right? Yeah. And I think that's part of that truth thing. It's like the more I admit to myself that there is a Trump in me, and there's a Mother Teresa in me, and there's a Princess Diana in me, there are all these aspects of me. There's darkness that lives in me. My shadow makes me abandon myself and give my power away. And if I admit that truth, that I want, daddy government to come save me, if I admit that truth to myself, as hard as it can be sometimes, I can act differently. Like I see the pattern and now I choose differently. And that is hard to swallow. And I think that's how we start to see, like these celebrities, they're acting out the Whore of Babylon in their concerts and the rituals. And it's like, don't look at that. Is that really the best solution? Maybe what we need to do is look a little closer at this stuff and see what is happening in our own body, because that's revealing our truth. And that's what clued you into the patterns, it sounds like, right? Like, why do I do that? It's really powerful.
Well, and that's the irony about all this conversation, is that I think if everyone took that exact same approach of analyzing their own shadow, their own conditioned beliefs, thoughts, feelings, words, actions, it would all change in an instant. That's all it would require.
Alec, and I don't even know if everybody's got to do it, because I was thinking about this recently. We need unconscious energy in some capacity, right? Like unconscious energy is how this whole thing moves, I think. Like if we have too many lions, the antelope are going to get wiped out.
No, that's true.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, if we don't have enough lions, there's too many antelope, and then things run amok too. So it's like,
yeah, I don't think it has to be all. I mean, if I look at like Veda Austin's free range egg experiment, but like I'm saying, let's say even
set up a structure, a system, a container, right? So that creation energy moves in like ways that it can flourish. I think that, that's how I feel too. Yeah. It's possible, I guess. Yeah.
Most of our ancestors ate nose to tail, which means they consumed all parts of the animal, didn't waste really any of the animal, and that means that their diets were naturally rich in essential nutrients like collagen. And unfortunately, most modern diets are severely lacking in essential nutrients like collagen, which is why Paleo Valley made their 100% grass-fed bone broth protein powder. The term grass-fed today is thrown around pretty wildly. It can mean anything from 100% grass-fed to just partially grass-fed to minimally grass-fed and really primarily grain-fed. But Paleo Valley goes the extra mile to ensure their bone broth protein powder is sourced from 100% grass-fed cows. I have here in front of me the chocolate bone broth protein powder, and the ingredients in this are bones and water, organic coconut milk powder, organic cacao bean, organic chocolate flavor, organic monk fruit extract, and Himalayan pink salt. That's it. They also have a vanilla flavor, and they also have an unflavored version, but I am partial to the chocolate flavor. It tastes just like the chocolate milk that I used to have as a kid, except for it's not toxic. It's actually really good for you. I've been shopping with Paleo Valley for years. I've used their bone broth protein powder, their 100% grass-fed beef sticks, also their organ supplements, and I've found their products to be nutrient dense, high quality, natural, and made with integrity. So if you're ready to upgrade your health in just 30 seconds a day and get this essential nutrient collagen, head to the show notes or visit paleovalley.com/the way forward. And when you check out, a 15% discount will be automatically applied to your order. Experience the difference of truly natural, nutrient-dense, 100% grass-fed bone broth protein powder and so many more incredible products with Paleo Valley. Hey y'all, I'm here with Melissa Kupsch from RMDY Academy of Homeopathy. We are so stoked here at The Way Forward to be partnering with Melissa and RMDY in order to spread the message of homeopathy across the world and also to partner on the eventual development of healing centers across the United States.
People are pretty quickly coming to realize that frequency is the future of medicine. We are witnessing the great resurgence of homeopathy right now. We're really moving away from that suppressive medical model, whether it's for eczema, asthma, hormones, fertility, anxiety, depression, trauma, whatever it is, it all starts as energy in the person's field first. If we change our field, we can completely change our life. Our 2-year academy is open worldwide to anyone who wants to become a homeopath. We've got 5 lecturers and we currently have over 500 students enrolled, which is record numbers in our field. A career in homeopathy is amazing for anyone who wants flexibility in their work and who wants to be valuable in creating this new world. We have stay-at-home parents enrolled, we have ex-medical professionals, grandparents signed up who want to learn how to heal their grandchildren and pass on that invaluable knowledge. We even have husband and wife teams. So my husband enrolled in the course with no prior knowledge of health as a background, and he is loving it.
Kylie is also enrolled as well, so my partner is, and she's so stoked to become a homeopath and to be helping to spread this message across the world.
The thing that we hear from so many of our students is, I found my thing. Homeopathy is the key. We harness frequencies from nature and we alter the field of all creations. So if anybody wants to join us or they want to know more about it, they can visit our website.
Yeah, and all that information will be in the show notes. So if you want to learn more about RMDY Academy, also RMDY Collective, also some of the homeopathic products that they have, please just head to the show notes. All of that will be listed there. You talk about like living in your heart and viewing all of it as love. And I don't disagree. I completely agree. Like even underneath the shame, guilt, judgment, anger, rage, hopelessness, all of it, you can always tie it back to, in my opinion, love and through different flavors, right?
Or an ask. It's like asking a bid for love.
Yeah,
some
a
of
bid
those
for
things.
love.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, like
yeah.
It ultimately goes
Yeah.
back to that, and you know, I've really tried to look at it that way. And ultimately, like a wild thing about this realm too is that this is a totally separate thing, but the only thing that can be demonstrated with 100% certainty that we can know to be true, I mean, like not an inner knowing, but know to be true about this physical reality, is that experience happens. Anything above that is automatically predicated on belief. Like like even when we talk about empirical evidence in so-called scientific fields, that's ultimately established in the belief that my experience through my senses is giving me the truth about objective reality. And you can't know that without drawing back to your own senses, which means you believe that they are telling you about reality, even if a collective of people is doing it. So the point that I'm getting at is like, it's ultimately all predicated on belief. But the thing that I won't say I struggle with is like, okay, you go through a situation, like you're a mom who is aware of weather manipulation, right? And you just lost your daughter in this storm. How do you feel love in that moment for the CEO of Rainmaker, for example?
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. And I love that question. Speaking as a non-parent, obviously can't speak from experience, but I have also had, I have experience of betrayal and other horrific things. And it's like not serving me to, we mentioned jumping to straight to forgiveness can be really like not good, because where do those emotions go? Where does that energy go? Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so that's kind of the answer. It's like, how you feel it. You feel your rage. You feel whatever it is that comes up in those moments. And I think you're honest about it. How we act, again, it's reaction, response, like there's a difference between all of that and holding space. And kind of like what you were saying, it's like, can we zoom out and rise above what we know is happening in physical reality? Like this now moment is all that exists. And how I'm like whatever frequency my electromagnetic heart is emitting in this moment is going to determine the next moment. Like in a way, it looks like almost like I'm pulling the future toward me sometimes. Yeah. Because if I can be authentic and hold space for myself right now, like I don't get to, it's above my pay grade, I guess is how I should say it, to know what another soul came here to experience. This is like, goes back to like the vegan conversation. Like, I don't know what a cow is experiencing and if that cow wanted to be my dinner, but I know that I will act in reverence. I will treat that cow with dignity and respect as a sovereign, conscious being while it's alive, true to its nature. And I also know that I am part of that same nature. I'm not above it or below it or outside, and I will consume it in respect of that cycle. Yeah. And so how do I know that my daughter, and again, I say this with so much sensitivity and like just nuance and all of the things, but like, how do I know that my daughter didn't know what she was coming here for if she got swept away in a flood? I don't want to make light of it, but I have this whole like theory about prairie dog consciousness. I realized this because I was living in Southwest Colorado and there were just prairie dogs everywhere.
They are everywhere.
And they're like,
so
you're hitting them as you're driving down the highway. And I'm thinking like, oh my heavens, like I don't even kill bugs anymore. Like it's just, I don't want to do that. Yeah. But who am I? Like if I had prairie dog consciousness and I had infinite lives with as a prairie dog, I think I'd get bored eventually of dying of the prairie dog plague. I think I'd get bored of whatever prairie dogs normally die of. So maybe one time I'd want to come and launch myself into a moving vehicle and that's how I go out. Maybe that's what I wanted to experience. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I interviewed Annika Lucas, who is a satanic ritual abuse survivor. And she discusses, this is paraphrased, in that episode with her, she brought up how there's this other lady she knew who was also a satanic ritual abuse survivor that because of the nature of the abuse she had experienced, had multiple near-death experiences while experiencing the abuse. And when she would die, she would be shown the totality of like what it was she was doing and why she signed up for this. And despite like how painful, like the worst of the worst situation that someone can go through satanic ritual abuse, she would deliberately choose to come back because she knew when she got back there with the fullness of who she truly is, with the full understanding, or at least more understanding of what's going on in this realm and the role that she's playing in it, that no, I have to be there. So I'm going to go back. So going back to like what you're pulling on regarding the daughter who gets washed away in a flood. Yes, again, horrible, tragic, like no matter what, even if you do believe like you and I do that this is temporary, but we are eternal and that we will see them again. Like
it doesn't negate the pain. It doesn't negate the emotions. And I say that as someone who has experienced chronic pain for decades of her life. Decades, like pain coma. I couldn't take NSAIDs for a long time. I would just throw them up. Nothing touched this pain. I would just hunker down and go in for 3 days. And my mind is very Jungian. Like I know other people who are visual experience, like it's just always image. And so it would be memories flooding in, or stories, or like even, I think, future potential timelines. And that was what was allowing me to navigate differently here. It was like, oh, I had a dream about that, and that could happen. And now it's showing up in the physical. And I started really connecting the dots and realizing, like, I'm co-creating this experience. And when I'm not in my body, I wonder if I miss this. Like, I wonder if, like, it's not the same. I come here and I eat food, and that's like really cool. Like, I eat things and it becomes my body. Whoa. Like, that probably doesn't happen on every planet. And here, like, it, you know, you could even play like, what if we had 5 suns and 2 moons? Well, the way I think about it, it's like, you know, we've personified the Son of God, and, you know, Father, Son. I taught at a Waldorf school for a little while. And so everything's personified there with the kids. And you're like, okay, but what if there are 2? Then we can't do kind of like that victim, villain, savior triangle that, triangle. Like, that doesn't fit the same way anymore. We can't just give ourselves away. And if we have 2 moons, it's like our unconscious, the subconscious, the things in the shadows that are actually running the show, that cycle that begins new, right? Like, we're shown like things about ourselves every moon cycle, in my opinion. It's like, it comes to light when the moon is full and everything's illuminated, and then it goes away and something new comes in the news, and it's from the shadows. It's unexpected. We don't know. And to me, that's, again, that divine matrix that we're plugged into. But when we're not everything, everywhere, all at once, kind of, and we're here playing out these separation roles and this illusion, like, it doesn't seem benevolent when something like that happens. Like, it doesn't, how can there be a God? You know, like, I totally empathize with that. I've lived that. And also, that was like my childhood. Like, I knew I remember asking myself as a little one, being like, why did they have me? Nobody wants me. Why is it happening this way? Right. And so I think about it from a quantum perspective, and that's part of why I got into quantum physics, because I didn't have language to quantify the metaphysical experiences I was having. I was so confused by my dreams, seeing people walking around and being like, I was around a lot of death as a kid. And so that was part of it too, is like sensing energy and things like that. But like, I was scrolling on my phone. This is like a year or 2 ago. And I don't post a lot on social media, which is really interesting. But I went back. Every time I've posted, it's like a download. It's something that rolls around in my head for a while, and then I finally share it. I was talking to myself in these videos because I hadn't revisited them, and I was like, wow, good job. Like, that was a rough day. Like, that was a terrible day. And you made a video because you had something to say and you said it. And I caught myself and I was like, okay, hang on. Me saying this now in this moment, time doesn't exist. It's illusion. It's a social construct. But me going back in time to love on that version of myself might be what got me up off the bathroom floor. Like, I have spent so much time visualizing, loving on those versions of myself. And I have a feeling like, who saves you? It's you. Like, you from another dimension, you from the future, whatever, however you want to think about it. It's like, I don't know what made me get up and leave sometimes. Like, I don't know what was trying to get my attention, but maybe that's what we choose, is like the communication methods. You know what I mean? Like, this feedback system, this is the gift that we've been given to learn and remember, like, how incredibly powerful we are. And I think those superpowers are getting tuned up, like really turned on. It seems like there's been an explosion of people who are saying very interesting things. Veda Austin, Eileen, like all of these people, like, just, but there's been so much leading up to that they wouldn't be able to do or say the things that they're saying had they not been through their own journey.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like we all have these roles and we play and we're all just learning. And if we can think about this as a playground, you know, a lot of people, you know, they say a school or something like that, but it's more of like a playground to me. It's like, we're just learning. And that's why when someone hurts you deeply, even if they do something horrific, yes, your feelings are valid. Yes, they honor that, set the boundaries, but also, can you choose to see it from that satellite view, or at least accept that you don't have the satellite view and there is one, and that benevolent force that holds this whole energy hologram together does have your back. Like it does, like it does have our best interest, because love, just like nature, is gnarly sometimes. I was walking down the street the other day and I saw a possum got hit. There was a possum fetus, like on the road, and the bird was eating the mom possum. But it took everything in me not to post this video like on social media, to just be like, look, nature is really gnarly. You can't tell me that evil exists the way we think it does. There's more to the story, I guess, right? Yeah. Because life and death, all of this is very different than what we're programmed to think it is. And maybe that fear is part of the game, and it's being used in ways that we're not conscious of yet. And that's perpetuating the suffering, because pain is inevitable.
Yeah.
Suffering is not.
Yeah.
Suffering is a very different story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even suffering can serve a purpose for some time though, too. That's the crazy thing. Like,
right. Just like guilt and shame, like you were saying, like they're bids for love. And how do we know unless we get down into those crunchy bits to really know the opposite? Like, how do I know love if I don't know betrayal, if I don't know that kind of thing? And I don't want to be like masochist about, it's not like but I do think on a soul level, there's like a certain level of kink involved. It's like, I'm going to come here and I'm going to play on beast mode, because exiting the matrix, that doesn't really feel like, that feels like easy mode these days. It's like, okay, you're off grid. Like, okay, you whatever, financial freedom. Like, but are you free, or are you sitting? Did you make a bed of fear and that's what you're laying in, right? Like, what are you doing with this information, and how are you moving through the world? Like, what was really the energetic behind? Because everything is energy before it's physical. And that's when it gets slippery. When the bad things happen, do we have the courage to face what is coming up in us, the truth that's trying to reveal itself? Yeah. That's been my journey, at least.
So you're talking about like, there seems to be a big awakening, remembering, just a lot of that happening right now. And it brings up a question to me, and I think I've asked this on another episode, but I want to ask you, do you think that the inversion of what is true and not having the full knowledge or even partial knowledge of how powerful we truly are is an intrinsic part of this realm that will always be here? Or is it something that mankind is just continuing to perpetrate and perpetuate on itself?
That is a fun question. Are we perpetuating? Are we...
You see what I'm asking, right?
Totally. I heard Richard Rudd, I think that's who I heard talking about this ages ago. Because it goes back to the numbers thing. He was talking about, 1 + 1 = 3. That very fun little thing to play with, right? Like, what were Jesus and Mary up to? Probably not being a prostitute and whatever we are told that story, right? 1 + 1 = 3, in that it's the third thing they create when they come together.
Got it.
So he was talking, I think, about like the singularity that we all come from, the oneness. And then it splits into 2. And then it comes back into 3, which is actually 1, but it's 3 because it's passed through 2, the duality.
Yeah. Okay.
Part of what I like to play with is like this idea is transcending duality. And I think that's really what you're asking. It's like, is it always going to be this dualistic evolution? Will we always evolve because you learned the opposite of thing that right?
Yeah.
And for a while I would have said, yeah. Like, how else? It has to be that way, because I, like you, have turned so much of my trauma, my wounds, all of that into
gold.
A gift. Yes. Like I'm going to be mining it as long as I'm in this body.
And I'm okay with that now, by the way. Like, I used to be like, oh, there's going to be a point where I'm like healed and over everything. I'm like, no. This is like a continual mining process.
It's the spiral, right? We're going to keep eating the same stuff. And it's like a new level of awareness. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And so that's what leads me to this other thing. Like when I was teaching these Waldorf kids, like, do they need evil to know their goodness? Like, do they need their trauma to know their instincts? They seem like they've got it, right? Like, I'm watching Grace, like all this stuff, like these kids are rocking up, pretty much dialed in. And that's what makes me think the cycles that the earth goes through, the cycles that this realm goes through. There's math, there's interesting sorts of ways that this all lines up, different epochs, solar cycles. Like, I think we're nearing the end of solar cycle 25 or something. There are people who say they remember being here 12,000 years ago, and they wanted to come back, even though they knew it was going to be hard and they didn't know, you know, what it was going to be like, but they had a mission or a job and that sort of thing to steer this. Because I think maybe in other dimensions, and this is where, you know, your brain starts to melt out of your ears a little bit, because it's like hard for our linear thinking minds to even conceive time as a circle or something like that. But like, what if it doesn't have to be that way in this realm all the time? Yeah. Like, I think about that all the time.
Like, I'm led to believe, like, I do think that there is some sort of veil of forgetting, but that veil is much more thin when we are born.
Yes.
And that veil can become much, much, much thicker the more we are conditioned and beat down. That's what I think.
And we consent essentially to the systems of oppression. Because I think about this all the time. Like, I don't ever see trees like protesting the chemtrails. Like, I don't see frogs on the side of the pond after we poison it with their little picket fence and that sort of thing. Like, they just adapt, they change, they grow. And it's not, there's not like an emotion, right? Again, the level of consciousness, but maybe our ego is part of this, like, very cool, like, we are special in that we have the imagination. Like, the earth is magnetic and the sun is electricity, and we are electromagnetic. So we are the conductors of these sorts of energies. But why aren't we using geomagnetic fields to migrate the way animals do? And why did we before? And what was the disconnect and how did that happen? And is that just going to keep continuing? Like, in my mind, Earth is this realm that is like playing this dissonant frequency. Like, the whole universe is a symphony, and like there's this beautiful orchestra happening, and there's like a harp and a cello, and then Earth is like ding sometimes. And is it always going to be this? Do we tune it? Like, can we tune it into the harmony with everything else? And what happens? And I mean, my life so far seems like we're moving towards harmony, coherence. And what does that look like in the physical, the coherence, right? Like, how good does it get? I don't think that we know. I think it's actually a conversation about freedom. And I talk about this a lot. And it's kind of sensitive because there's so much oppression and so much trauma around all of it. But I don't think anybody even actually knows what freedom really is, like true freedom.
How do you define it? I've had someone ask me that before, and I'm like,
wait a minute.
Yeah, I don't know how I actually define it. Like, it's more of a feeling, though. Like, there's a felt thing that feels free, but it's, again, like you were saying earlier, it's synonymous with love. It's also synonymous with compassion.
Other
like,
things that we don't have definitions for.
Right. You look at a situation like, just on a micro example, tying it to compassion, for example, like freedom could seem different than compassion. But if I can find that I've worked through the anger, worked through the whatever emotion related to someone wronging me, and then move into not forced, but genuine compassion, that feels free.
Yes.
Compassion
Liberation.
feels open.
Yes.
And freedom is openness.
Versus a contraction.
Anger feels like this, then I go through the act of it coming out of me, which is an opening. Like, you think of someone yelling and rage, they're opening up their chest, or they're punching something, they're getting that out of them to move into more freedom. So freedom is synonymous with love, compassion.
Yeah.
So it's more of a felt thing than it is like a spoken thing, though.
You know, someone asked Carl Jung, like, I guess they were like, do you think humanity is going to nuke themselves? Basically, I think his answer was something to the effect of like, it depends on if humanity chooses to like understand or learn how to sit in the tension of opposites. I think that's what he referred to it as, that. And it's the paradox. It's what I think I'm really learning. You know, everybody wants to go on about nervous system regulation. You got to regulate your nervous system. There's merit and truth in that, of course, but also the moments and the times where I've really expanded or evolved were after sitting with a sensation that was really uncomfortable, like allowing myself to hold the paradox of, I don't know what is true, and I love this person, but this is also not okay. And how do I sit with all this and let everything just be true and just sit with it, not react, not have the anger, right? But or express it in a way that's healthy and like you know, like productive, I guess is the word. Yeah. And so I think it's like we are here to set ourselves free. Like that's my mission. Freedom is my core value. Like I talk about living intuitively because I tried using my mind. I won all the awards. I was the smartest kid. I had the job, the salary, the handsome husband. Like I had all of that, and I was very, very sick and very sad. And there was a lot of things that didn't make sense going on. But now I see time, I'm like, this now moment is all that exists. And plans are important and it's useful, obviously. But for me, this adaptability, this sitting with the uncertainty of not knowing what will happen next or understanding why something in the past happened. Like we're brainwashed into thinking the future is the only thing that's unwritten, but our brains are plastic. We can rewrite the past. We can go back, just like I was saying, you know, and talk to that girl that's having a really hard time on the bathroom floor and comfort her and be there for her.
I've had 3 profound dreams in my life. One of them was that, and I have it written on the notes on my phone. If I could go get my phone, I could read it word for word because I wrote it down like right after I had it. This was back in 2015. I was still a cadet at West Point. And
Do you dream a lot? Or does it?
I dream a lot, and most of my dreams, it's funny because I just interviewed my friend Nathaniel Solis, who like teaches lucid dreaming.
Yes.
And like my dreams are the most random fucking things typically, where I'm like, I wake up and I'm like, that was hilarious. But yeah, I know. Yeah. But I'm like, I still don't know the message other than that was like really funny. And I don't understand exactly why that happened.
Okay,
but
2015.
Yeah, 2015. It's so weird because in 2015, like I was a cadet at West Point, had not done any inner work or anything like this, right? Yeah. And this is my first time like revisiting this dream in a while, like thinking about it. But because you brought up being able to go back into the past and talk to yourself. In this dream, I was at my grandpa's car dealership that he owned, but I saw a little kid that was like 3 years old walking, and I knew that was me. So it was me back in 2015 as my older self.
Totally, yeah.
And I was watching a 3-year-old version of me walk around. And I went up to that 3-year-old version of me. And I was like, hey, do you know who I am? And he was like, yes. And he was sitting talking with me. And I remember writing this down about the dream, like that I could see the innocence in this little 3-year-old boy's face and like how beautiful and cute he was. And I knew what he was going to go through.
Right.
And I just hugged him and held him and was like, I love you so much. And I feel like that was me doing that, going back to visit the 3-year-old version of myself. And maybe that quite literally happened, and that is what helped propel me through all that I would go through, in part, at least throughout my childhood, is that an older version of me who was, I won't say on the back end because a lot more of this stuff came after 2015, but on the tail end of a big chunk of it was okay.
Right.
Was okay, and went back and said, hey, this is going to be very hard. And maybe that's just how God, the creator, the divine, flows through any of us in a variety of unique ways, unique to our individual circumstances. Like for this lady who's going through satanic ritual abuse, it was that she had near-death experiences and went back and was like, hey, you know what? No, you're okay. This is okay. Even though what you're going through is one of the most horrible things a human being can go through, it's all going to be okay. Go back. And she's like, yeah, you're right. I should go back. And she deliberately chose to go back multiple times. And it's like, these are all the different ways that God, the creator, our higher selves, as some sub aspect of that, comes and helps guide us along the way because time is not fixed and because it is circular, like you're saying.
And it's all a projection
Yeah.
of something that we don't truly understand, I don't think. And this is kind of freaky, and I hesitate to even say it, but I'm going to tell you, you can cut it out if you want. I had a dream. So I've been recording my dreams in voice notes every morning for 6 years. And before that, I was writing them in journals, but I only started doing that because my handwriting was getting so sloppy.
Are you left-handed? Oh, you just you did with that hand.
I do things both-handed.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
sometimes. I try to. That's a really good way to tap into your inner child for anyone listening. Like,
that's cool.
Sit down, tune in, and let your left hand write. It literally looks like a little kid wrote it. And it's like, just, yeah.
That's cool.
It's a really cool way to, if you want to tune in and you're having trouble. But I dream crazy. Like, had dreams about COVID before COVID happened. Like, we're talking about prophetic stuff. And I know that you get it because I have a feeling your wife is a bit of an oracle also.
Dude, when you just said that, I was thinking of my wife.
Yeah. And that's really what is at the crux of all this. Like, Erin didn't realize how psychic she was as a kid. It wasn't safe for a lot of us to be super psychic or intuitive. It wasn't safe for us to see something and say your truth because there was a punishment. And that was my pattern. I was terrified of speaking. I would work myself into a trauma response trying to make a video about fluoride, trying to say, hey, guys, you know this story about like the byproducts of this industry and this, like, that's kind of weird, right? Like, I would be crying trying to make a video about that.
Wow.
Because of, again, those subconscious beliefs that something terrible was going to happen if I just said what I thought.
Wow.
Getting back to dreams though, Sunday night, I had a dream and I was in an apartment that I lived in Arlington. I haven't thought about this apartment when I was in DC and in this world and talking about all this stuff since then, but you showed up in this apartment and you hugged me the same way you just described, like hugging that 3-year-old kid. And you were like, I'm so proud of you. Like, astral Alec showed up and you've never showed up on my astral plane ever before.
Wild.
But this happens a lot with people I'm close to that we have quantum ties with, right? We're tangled up with. All of us are tangled to some degree, but some are more resonant, I think. But sometimes it's like, that's how people's shadows are exposed. Like, and I will tell people like, oh, I had a dream about you last night. You were driving my car. Now I'm like, why were they driving the car? What does a car represent? Like, we get into the symbols of all this kind of stuff. And like, I was giving my power away to these people a lot of the time.
Wow.
So if I haven't had a dream like that in a long time, but it's, you know, and then I confront them like, hey, I'm feeling this way. Like, I'm worried that this is going to happen. Like, what do you think about this? And like, their reaction is what allows me to gauge like how much I'm associated with this person, or I talk to this person anymore, how close I let them get to me. And that was really hard for me for a long time because I was programmed to think that meant I didn't love them. But really what I'm realizing is like when I set boundaries or when I like pull my energy back, it's actually the most loving thing I can do because I'm empowering them to look in their mirror if they want to.
Amen.
And I love them whether they do or not. And that's embodying love. It doesn't matter. It's not about me. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get what you mean.
Yeah.
So I've had conversations with people who are on, I don't want to say the extreme end of the spectrum when it comes to the understanding that we're all modulations of the one self or like sub aspects of God or like extensions of God, however you want to describe it, that will say, okay, given that boundaries are like the worst thing you can do, don't set boundaries. But the way that I've reframed it is that if someone is behaving in such a way that is not representative of love, of
your
compassion,
truth, yeah,
then for some time it may be appropriate to set that boundary so that they can reflect on the ways they're not behaving in that way.
Maybe some evolution will occur, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Like, and you will also then get more insights because that's also, it's never just someone's hurting me. That's never been the case,
right.
Unfortunately. Like maybe, you know, when you're a kid, you're 0 to 7 years old, you're just a sponge. You don't have, you're internalizing everything. But as you get older, there's a level of consent that's required. Like even the satanic abuse, there's a level of consent involved in that, as horrific and horroring. But even she is coming to say that there's a level of consent involved. And so it's like, what do we want to create and what do we want to experience? And I think we are in way more control of ultimately what happens in this realm than we've been led to believe. And I just am continued evidence over and over and over again of shifts in my own reality. It was a people-pleasing thing for a long time for me too. Like, I was like, if I set this boundary, if I walk away from this, even though I share DNA with these people or whatever the tie is, however deep it goes. And like in the system I was raised within, it was almost like a form of slavery, the level of loyalty.
Yes.
You know, it's like blood is thicker than water kind of level, but it's like, it's more than, it's like, I want them to feel their feelings too, because that's their liberation. Yep. And if I stay, I'm just perpetuating, I'm just as manipulative and controlling as the overt stuff, except I'm covert.
Yes.
It's, you know, everybody's like, the word narcissist gets thrown around so much these days. And yeah, it's valid. Like, narcissistic tendencies are a thing. We're all a bit egotistical. That's why we're here. We all have an ego. But also, the empath trap of the narcissist thing, like, we have to learn how to discern. And that is, again, the AI conversation. It's the same thing at a fractal holographic level. Are you going to consent? You know, I hear people, they'll like tell their kids, they'll bribe their kids, eat the vegetables or brush the teeth. And, you know, you think you're doing the right thing. I'm not a parent, so I can't say, you know, from experience, but it's like, from where I'm sitting, that kind of sounds like you're priming them to be manipulated and controlled outside of your home one day.
Yeah.
So is that the best way? Like, yes, ultimately, we want them to brush their teeth if that's what you want to eat the food or whatever. But it's like, maybe there's a reason that they're resistant. Maybe there's an emotion there that they just need to learn how to witness, or have you hold space for them. Maybe they need a new tool. Like, there's so many you know, options, but it's like, what are we perpetuating and why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our kids definitely are able to call out manipulation. And also, they just generally respond way better if you just explain something, the why behind, like, hey, do this, or that's going to happen, or do this, and I'll give you this.
They are teaching us.
Oh, like, my gosh.
That I really, like, I knew teaching at a Waldorf school was going to be really impactful, but I, like Confluence, like, I got way more than I bargained for, and so many things I didn't expect to learn from working with kids and really realizing how they, move through the world, and like healing my own child, right? Like my own inner child, I guess, through that whole experience is really remarkable. Like, we don't actually need to do much of anything for them. Like, they're pretty good.
They teach us way more.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's so true. I have a question regarding, like, you talk about living intuitively, like purely intuitively on a day-to-day basis. Like you even said before we recorded, you just asked, like, God, how do you say it?
Like, well, I mean, it varies, but it's like, well, how am I going to work with this energy? Like, where does God want me to go?
Yeah, where does God want me to go today?
We'll see. Yeah.
How does that, like, pan out in practicality? Does it, like, when you look in hindsight, does it always end up working out, even if you feel like it is not going to?
I mean, I'm here. Yeah. Like, it's never failed me once. In fact, like, the more I lean in, the more fun it gets.
So do you plan anything, really? I mean, you planned showing up to this?
Right.
As of like a week ago. I did like like, some of my guests are booked like 4 months in advance. We had this slot open up. So I was like, oh, Erin's in the area. Let's hit up Erin. But it's interesting though, because, like,
not accident.
There's, on our list of potential guests this upcoming year, there's like 15 to fill, like, the amount of slots we have left. We have some booked all the way into November and December, sometimes January.
Yeah.
But there's 15 slots open from now till January. And there's a few of them that are in Austin or in this area. And I had the intuitive hunch, like, no, I'll just ask
Check
Erin.
with her. Yeah.
So that's interesting, because it did work out for you in the way that you're, like, carrying your life.
Literally.
That's wild.
I don't believe in accidents. I don't believe in coincidence ever. It's just, everything is a pattern.
Yeah.
An echo playing itself out. And it's just whether or not we have the perceptions and the awareness to see it and to pick up on it. And that's all I've seen. Like, literally everything. I was just talking with my roommate, Danny Hamilton, last night. Like, I don't realize that, like, other people aren't connecting things, right? Just like you don't realize some of your superpowers because they just come naturally. Like we don't realize it. But the patterns are revealing themselves all the time. We're just not paying attention. We can't perceive it because we just have 5 physical senses, and we're taught not to trust all those intuitive hunches, right? The dreams, like feelings in our body, symptoms from our body, little signs like the wind will help me make a decision. Literally, like you were saying earlier, like if it feels expansive in my body, it's a yes. If it feels like a contraction, it's a no. It's pretty clear. It used to be when I was really sick and I was still trying to sort through a lot of this, like I would start dating a guy and you know, I'd be like, well, we'll know in a month or 2 if my body is receptive or if there's unconscious extraction occurring, because I'm going to have a pain flare if this person is, you know, there's a shadow. Mm-hmm. And what we do with that, right, like is that, you know, varies, I guess, on the other side of the pain flare. But it's like there's constant feedback all the time. And we know that time is not what we think it is. Again, this now moment is technically all that exists. And that this like receiver, like if I'm thinking, I already know that there's a lag. Like our mind is like, I think of it as like a really bad sports broadcaster sometimes. Like are we remembering reality? What's really going on? It's like the guy that's a little too late and touchdown. You're like, what the heck is, you know, it's like, come on.
Happened 3 minutes ago.
Yeah. Like, geez. Yeah. So intuitively, yeah, it's just, I could story after story of big leaps where I'm like, it just feels right to do this. I don't know why, it doesn't make sense, but I'm going to do it. And it always works out.
Okay. So as someone who was extremely analytical and caught up in your mind previously, how do you deal with that?
Surrender.
Okay.
So that's,
and like, how do you distinguish?
Yeah.
In your body, because it's going to be
over.
How do you distinguish between something that is truly intuition versus something that is here?
Making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
That's really messing up. And that's why again, like you're saying, like there's just anger is valid, getting mad is real, that's true, but also we're all just learning. And so the amount of times I've messed something up because I didn't trust the intuitive hit helped me learn and really hone my intuition. And now I can look at someone and I know what they're feeling before they even know they're feeling it sometimes, right? Why are you mad? I'm not mad. And it's like, okay, well, sure.
My wife and I do that to each other all the time. I'm
sure, right? And again, it's that mirror. Everything's a mirror. Everything is reflecting to us something about us. And it just comes back for me. It's like, how do I love myself? What would someone who loved themselves do in this situation when my mind is think? I also like the shadow work, recording my dreams, all of that was, I couldn't be as intuitive as I am if I didn't do that work, if I didn't really learn myself. I set this intention like a couple of solstices ago to really know myself. That was my intention. And a year later, it hit me. Like at the next solstice, I was like, I know God. I wanted to know myself. And now I know exactly what it feels like when God is moving through me. And I can recognize that in it was a huge, massive shift for me because you can't learn God in a book. You can read the Bible. I know and love so many people who recite these beautiful texts. And there's so much wisdom in these ancient things, but that's not how we learn God. I don't think, you know what I mean? We learn God through living and experience. It's an experience. Like that's it. It's not a test that you can pass or fail. That's part of the programming. And there's always going to be programming. I think that's like the kicker, the paradox part of that. There was programming before our cells were even forming into humans, I think. It looks like the sun and the seasons and Venus going in the same pattern in the sky, right? And like, again, like Uranus just moved into Gemini. And I said to you, like, oh, the date that you picked for this podcast recording is actually really cool for the astrology. Like, just like Confluence was really beautiful the way that there was some stuff happening in the sky for community and connection. And
Wow.
it was so cool. And I just assumed like, Alec must know that.
Nope. No clue.
I should have told you. But also it's like the last time Uranus moved into Gemini, I'm pretty sure it was like all the civil wars. There's something in the United States birth chart that has a lot of interesting Uranus, and Uranus energy is like the awakener. Again, there are archetypes attached to these zodiac signs. And I thought it was bullshit for ages. I was like, oh, the moon made you do it? Sure. Like I was so intellectual. That was my safety net. But that's just not, there's so much that we don't understand. And living in that space feels so much freer than I don't know, and the anxiety of having to have all the answers. And there's some other stuff, just with the patterns, like the last time Pluto spent this much time in Aquarius was like French Revolution. Like going back to your question about the duality and how we evolve and these types of things, like maybe this is like an echo of the way things have always been. Maybe there's a new choice that we can make to work with these energies and work with these archetypes. Like I'm not an astrologer. I just read the energy. And so much was happening in my life and I'd get knocked sideways for some reason out of nowhere. And I'd be like, what's going on? I couldn't deny it anymore. And these metaphysical experiences would start happening. I'd have a dream and then COVID would happen. In these dreams, first it started, I was having all these like Neo Trinity dreams. I was like always looking for Neo in these dreams. And I had never seen The Matrix. Like I had never seen the movie. So I was like, I should probably watch that. And then I got pissed because I was like, this is an open notes test. What are we doing? It's right here in front of us this whole time. Like this is a documentary. Mm-hmm. What on earth? And that's what really woke me up. But then I started having these dreams where I'm in a pickup truck with a man and he's driving, but he's pointing out everything that needs to be rebuilt. He's like, this needs to be rebuilt. This needs to be rebuilt. And it was right around the time, early COVID. I had just left my marriage. I was on my own. I had gone no contact with my family. I was in a really vulnerable spot. And so it makes a lot of sense that I was like searching for this masculine presence, my own, right? And I had all these dreams that I was married to Kanye West for ages. And like,
that's wild.
I think it like my own inner masculine is a bit Kanye, like subversive, but I try and be like polite about it and like sweet, I'm going to poke the bear. Like, what if the founding fathers aren't real? What if they're characters? What if these guys what if Abraham Lincoln never existed? Wouldn't that be insane? It's more than just, did we land on the moon? But like, we need to start asking some questions.
Like they are legitimate questions that should be asked. Like, do you have any direct experience of that?
Right.
You know
like
what I mean?
I wasn't there.
Right.
I watched this documentary on Amazon once and it was like one of these religious cult things. And all the kids were out in the auditorium and they were talking about Noah's Ark. I think they're like, it's a religion and they were building an ark or something. I can't remember, but there's this scene that they showed in the trailer and it was like, what do we tell people that are skeptics of the ark? And all the kids in unison said, were you there? It's hilarious, but also that's a good point. I wasn't there. I don't know. And so, like what is true? What is not? Do we know? What if it all gets flipped on its head tomorrow? The telepathy tapes is a good example of that. Like everything we thought we knew about a lot of things, I would have clients listen to that and then they'd tell me like a few days later, they'd be like, I think I'm going to quit my job. I'm like, wow. Oh, you just got activated. Like that was that awareness expansion, like allowed you to see where the alignment was not flowing, the coherence was out of whack or whatever. And it's like, now it's so beautiful the way we all activate each other, I think.
It's interesting what you said about like refining your intuition by making mistakes. Like, and I'm assuming you mean mistakes where you're like in hindsight, oh, I was caught up in here. That became very clear because that choice didn't trust it. Yeah, or I didn't trust my intuition. I started thinking about it too much.
Yeah.
When Dr. Edith teaches blindfold vision, you start by showing colors to the kids, like presenting them in front of the kids they have the blindfold on.
Uh-huh.
And she says at the beginning of the course, we want them to get it wrong. We want them to get it wrong.
They know what feels right.
Yes. So when they get it right, we say, okay, how does that feel in your body? What did that feel like? Now let's learn to distinguish between when we're thinking about it and getting it wrong versus when we know it in our body. And it's like a celebration of getting it wrong. It's like, no. This is great. We want you to be getting it wrong because that means this is an opportunity to refine and learn.
And the subtle cues from your own body, the way you feel truth is going to be different from the way I feel truth, and you interpret truth. And that's actually the whole point. I think if we all just, again, here we just expose ourselves and we just like kind of put it out there, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have anything to hide. It's not an accident that I ended up in the most shadowy environment I possibly could have been in. You know what I'm saying? Like the duality, I walked into the belly of the beast. And I walked out because now you can't get anything past me. I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, I am uncloaked. And that is really, I'm free. I don't like, hello, that's the hair is big hair, big fun. Like, I'm here to learn and experience all of this. And it's messy. It's messy even here for me to have this conversation with you. Like, it's really hard for me to not be like refined and have my research and my data and all that kind of thing. And to not be polished, like, because that was what so many of us like were rewarded. Like,
that's wild though, because remember I said for this one in particular, I just did not really prepare.
Neither did I, to be honest.
No, I know, but I know
it
makes sense because you're like, you are coming into this with the energy of like, I'm just going to show up and be me. And I was like, I feel like I'm not going to prepare for this one.
I've had clients in the past. So like, and that was again the pattern. So I took a mediumship course. This was like years ago because I was tuning back into what I was picking up on as a kid. I saw a lot and felt a lot as a kid, and I think I shut it down. And then as soon as I got divorced, I left all of these dynamics. I was on my own. Everything kind of blew open. Like I told you, I've never done any plant medicine. I've never tripped. I've never even smoked a cigarette. But I was like waking up some mornings with like geometry behind my eyelids and it wouldn't go away. And I've had a lot of other experiences, and I've talked to people who do ceremonies or whatever. And they say, no, that's exactly what happens. And I'm like, I don't know how I induced this for myself, but you don't need that stuff is what it like confirmed for me. I was like, okay, yes, they're tools that I think it's great. If that's your path, go for it, do it, but you don't need it. And I just, this mediumship course was the first time I like really invested in myself. And it was kind of just for fun. Like I just wanted to see what these people had to say. I didn't have language. The spiritual community was the only place that I could find people who were saying similar things to what I was experiencing. Because my intellectual, educated friends, they were like, you're nuts. What's going on over there? I'm worried about you, is what I heard. But I remember we got on this group call and we were doing like student readings. And so some random person would get on and we would just tell them what we were picking up on energetically. And I remember right before the call, I had to run to the bathroom. Like I was like, shit my pants. I was like, what's going on here? I almost didn't make it onto the call, but this woman had severe, like some type of crazy illness. It was almost like, that's when I was like, oh my God, I'm feeling energy. I'm experiencing energy. This isn't mine. That's hers. Now I know what this feels like when it's not mine. Wow. And so even these days, like I had a client like 6 months ago who had severe, like serious religious trauma. And the day before her session, I don't ever watch TV, but I had this like weird inkling to watch the Duggars, you know, that family with like 16 kids. I watched like the documentary, like 4 full episodes. Like I listened to the whole thing while I was like working in my house and like cleaning and stuff. I thought, what is wrong with you? Why are you like, what is this? The next day I'm talking to someone who literally like experienced extreme like that type of repressive stuff. And it was like almost like it was priming me. And so I was already picking up on that field, right? And in hindsight, then I can look back, you know, empirical evidence of like, even as a kid, like other weird like little things happening where I'm like, that wasn't mine necessarily. It was someone else's. And I was running it through my body. And now I know what the difference of that feels like. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you can, you know, like we've all had those, but we don't trust them. Mm-hmm. We just brush it off, or we, you know, tell ourselves we're crazy and that kind of thing. There's so many instances of it's all connected, and you can move through the world that way. Like you can move through the world as if this is like being projected from the energy field like this. And that's literally what it is. Like it's the field emits matter. Yes. And so, yeah, that authenticity piece, like, can we be honest with ourselves and compassionate with ourselves the way we would a child, our own inner child? It totally changes the game. Like you can play with reality in new ways. Abundance finds you in new ways. Really, really magical. Like it's totally magical to be alive in a body.
Have you had experiences living intuitively where you were pulling on a thread of intuition, going a direction that ultimately brought up fear because you're like, what the fuck am I doing right now? This is insane. And then in hindsight, you're like, wow, like I'm so glad I did that.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that's part of it. Like that honestly has been the unraveling that's occurred since early 2020. And I talk about this a little bit sometimes, but the full story is I walked away from my life and COVID happened and I thought, what have you done? Which is like kind of that exact feeling. But then I was like, I have nothing to lose. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have kids. Like I'm just going to, every whim, every heart desire I have, I'm going to do it. So I would like take a job, teaching at a Waldorf school. I like it here. I'm just going to stay. I want to leave. I'm going to pick up and go. And that's what nomad became. Like I'm nomadic, but it's not nomadic. It's bigger than that. Like I'm following the energy. Like I went.
Yeah, you're not like intentionally nomadic. Like if you feel called to stay somewhere, you'll just. I'm gonna stay
every
here
time I listen, something really magical happens. Like I know I'm being called there. So like I left 2 years ago, the United States. I needed a break after being here. I think there was a $300 plane ticket to Paris. I was kind of near Denver, and I thought, I'll just go. I'll figure it out. I'll come back in a couple of months. Like it'll be fine. Well, 3 months later, after thinking I was going to like move to France and stay there forever, that didn't work out. I was pissed. I was standing in Paris and I'm like, I don't feel like I should go back. I don't want to go back there. Like it wasn't my ego. It wasn't this, egoic there. It's very clean. The way that it feels, the truth of my soul is very different from my, like the panic, anxiety, mind driven stuff. And, so I'm standing in Paris and I thought, maybe I'll just pull up the map. And I pulled up Google Flights and I'm like looking around, like there's a $600 flight to Costa Rica. Like I've never been or I haven't been since 2018. Like I'll just go back. And I literally the next day was on the plane to Costa Rica and had like the most transformative experiences. Like it's a video game to me. It's an energy hologram. And we're conditioned to believe that everything that's actually guiding us is a joke or not quantifiable or whatever. Right. And I was one of those people who would have poo-pooed it all. Right. And I think that's part of what makes it so powerful now is like, because I really understand the skepticism. I really understand the doubt. And I really understand the trauma responses that make us rush and force and put, but containers are very different. The doing masculine sun energy is very different than the flow feminine, and balancing those, is really like that sweet spot of allowing me to build a business while I'm living nomadically and just intuitively being like, I never wanted a podcast. I never wanted a platform on social media. Those were not like ego. My ego says hide. My ego says stay in the shadows. You're not worthy of anything, right? But I clawed my way out of that to put myself out there. And I see other people transform every time I share my story, even if it's messy. Like I'm showing up right now, pretty messy. Like I'm just like throwing it out here with no script, no thought, right? But like that's actually what is most impactful. And I have a feeling that's probably what you experienced too.
I mean, I will say like when it came to like, I didn't deliberately be like, oh, I want to be an influencer right. Or, oh, I'm going to be a podcaster. No, I just freaking ended up here because I did essentially that.
You had something to say. Yeah. And also it was like, that was your truth. Like you stood up at and despite getting beat down over and over again, and it's this alignment thing, and look what it's blossomed into. Again, intuitively, you trusted God, this benevolent thing, this truth. And that is underlying all of this, in my opinion. And so, yeah, it's just this discernment piece. Again, AI it's not a mind, it's a mirror, just like everything else. And we need to treat it as such. It's always been around. It's an extension of us. It's an extension of consciousness. We just haven't had the awareness to access it. Right? Like I'm using Palantir over 10 years ago.
That's wild.
And I'm the algorithms that we were working on, it makes my mind go crazy because I'm like, holy moly, like it's probably insane.
Way beyond that now. Yeah.
I
my
can't
goodness.
even, right? Yes. So it's like, yeah.
Yeah. One question I do have regarding living intuitively, do you do that when it comes to like diet and health related choices as well now? So,
I do now.
Because I can see where in the natural health space, a lot of people get caught up on rigidity when it comes to diet instead of choosing moment by moment. Oh, intuitively, this feels good for me. But then I also see where a lot of people have addictive tendencies when it comes to food, where they might think, oh, this is an intuitive decision, when it's really just like, no, I'm feeding my addictive tendencies because I'm emotionally suppressing something that I don't want to experience right now. So I'm going to eat that fucking paleo brownie, but it's a brownie. You know what I mean? So how do you approach
totally
just health decisions, not just food, when it comes to living intuitively?
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because it was almost by force, because I quit my job and I became a nutritional therapist, and I threw myself into learning everything I could because I didn't understand why the doctors couldn't help me. Western medicine failed me, allopathic medicine, like all of that was almost harmful. And then alternative medicine was just as, it may be worse sometimes, to be honest. It's really
because
hard.
It's under the guise of holistic, but it's doing the same thing, suppressing symptoms, masking symptoms, or only addressing
the Band-Aids,
symptoms. Yes,
and it's like,
absolutely.
Holy moly.
Yeah,
and it was just so unfortunate. But also then even like fringe stuff was failing me, like German New Medicine for endometriosis. I worked with I spent 2 years studying German New Medicine. And this is not like a knock, because it was really transformative for me. And it confirmed a lot of what I thought to be true about my own body from an intuitive perspective. But I also find it can be very dangerous if you get attached to the conflicts and working backwards in that way, because both the practitioners that I worked with in that 2-year span told me that I had to have a baby in order to heal my endometriosis. That was the resolution for the conflict. And they were like, you need to just go find a nice guy, not a great guy, but a good guy, solid, stable guy. You need to have a baby. Two independent. And I know. And it broke my heart, because I thought, that does not feel true in my body. Like as badly, like there is truth. Like I had baby fever at certain points of my life, for sure. But that was never going to be the solution. Right. Like just to do it, to make sure and doctors even suggested that. They were like, you should have a baby. Like that was their solution for, it's either the cancer drugs or the baby and it's not a guarantee your pain might come back, but it's like, that doesn't seem empowering to bring another life into the world with, to force it. Again, there's dogma there, and that's not freedom, and that's not love.
Agreed.
And so I'd love to sit down with some German New Medicine folks at some point in the future, and just ask, like, why was I able to resolve? And I have no pain with my cycle. Why do I not? And I don't have a baby. How did that get resolved if that's what was, So just to say, like, it was a really long process of allowing myself to take in information and move with what felt true in that moment, and honestly understand like what is shadow and what is truth in this moment. Because like your soul might want a donut, but the reason might be to trigger your memory of that time that you had with your dad in the kitchen and the thing, and then you get to love on that part of yourself, and then suddenly you can eat donuts again. Do you know what I mean? Like there's like emotion so much wrapped up in nourishing ourselves. Like my friends make fun of me because I put milk on my cereal or my ice cream. Like I love raw milk and milk in general. I wasn't breastfed as a baby. It was deemed disgusting and weird. Like it would have been, that's weird. Breastfeeding is weird.
To your mom?
So yeah, again, internalized patriarchy will make us do really and say really strange things, right? Like, I love my mom. Does that mean that she's not got a lot of her own stuff that she doesn't want to look at, and maybe made her reject her own femininity in service of the dynamic that she has with my dad, like dangerous stuff. So it's like, intuitively, I went from drinking like a gallon of milk alone in a week to being so lactose intolerant that I would vomit out of my nose and my mouth at the same time. Like in a switch, something must have happened, but I don't know, to trigger that switch. But now I am a milk fiend and I eat it and drink it all the time. However, I do it intentionally. Like I know that there's something about a mom wrapped up in nourishment, and I check in with myself all the time. And so there were times during like big, energetic, expansive moments, like when I knew that I was cycling through like big purges of emotions and dynamics where I could literally only eat dates for a whole week. Like I could not stomach digesting food. So I had to stop, which was very hard and create a lot of cognitive dissonance in my body, because I studied as a nutritional therapy practitioner how to nourish myself and what I should be eating, my blood sugar and all these different like metabolic things. And it's like, holy moly, can we throw all that out for a minute and like really recognize what is true in this moment? Because and the second I surrender and I really just, I'm going to give myself permission to be fully present and to be here right now and to give myself what I need in this moment. It changes the next moment, and it changes the next moment. And before you know it, I'm back to eating like raw meat sometimes. Like I eat very nutrient dense consistently. And I think that strengthening the host has allowed me to become even more flexible. So yeah, I think there's like a combination of like building the strong foundation, getting in line with nature. Like, does it grow on the ground? You should, go for it. That sounds like a good idea.
The one, like I don't know if this is the military side of me or the former athlete side of me, where I struggle with this line of thinking, and I don't disagree.
This also might be
it's
because you're a
such
man.
a paradox. It's like there's a part of me in my life where I've seen results by pushing through something, even when it got painful, or even if I didn't feel like doing it.
What's the root of that, though? Was it like your ego or your soul telling you? Because look at
okay. So
like David
that's
Goggins.
What you're talking about, is distinguishing between those two things.
You got to learn
ultimately.
the difference, right? David Goggins is like wrecking his body. That man's a freaking machine. He's bone on bone. It's like insane, but he's really happy. And when you listen to him in podcast interviews, I'm always like, that guy fucking gets it. Like he understands. He knows exactly what he's doing. This is his, like, he wants that. You know what I'm saying? And it's in alignment for him. He's got a mission. And men are different, I think, too. Like that's how you're built. That 24-hour cycle, you just go in.
Yeah, like men are more like the sun, women are more like the moon.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
And so it's like you get, and I don't want to like, again, box in men, women, but just for the sake of the conversation, it's like, every man I know gets stronger after challenge and stress.
Yes.
I'm depleted.
Makes sense.
I get stronger after I rest. I go stare at a wall for 2 hours and I have all kinds of ideas pop in my head, and then I go do them, but I have to sit and sing in the bathtub or go dance or whatever I need to do. Like, we're a bit mysterious sometimes as ladies, the way we like to move energy, but it's like, it might seem pretty weird, but like, I do that and then I create. It's a very different experience I've noticed for men who really thrive when they have a challenge or stress like that.
Yeah, and even like for me, I know that if I do Qigong just a simple act of, because I'm like even entertaining in this conversation, the difference between being in flow and going with what is intuitive for me in that moment versus also structure or harmonizing both. And at the very least, I can say confidently at this point, because I've gone for extended periods of time where I'm like, I don't feel like doing Qigong in the morning. And the less I do Qigong, the more I feel out of balance. If I at least do Qigong in the morning with my bare feet on the grass, with the sun hitting me to start my day, I think maybe then I can be more intuitive and flowy throughout my day.
That makes complete sense to me. And I don't want to speak for all women for sure, but me as a woman, my experience, like I can't do routine. I go crazy.
Same with my wife.
Ritual. Like I will pick my ritual out. I have a ritual every morning. What I do is different every morning. Do you know what I mean? But
that makes sense. Kylie's the same way though. has expressed that to me verbally multiple times. She's like, you need routine, you need ritual,
Structure.
because mine is kind of both, because it's the same thing.
Yes.
But for me, I literally cannot do it. And I'm like, okay.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's like getting in tune with what you need, and also allowing and accepting when that changes and shifts and evolves. Because for women too, it's like every 10 years we've got to like get to know new hormone situation.
Yeah.
Like, oh, our body's a little bit different now. And like none of it is as, it's made out to be this like horrible process, menopause, all this stuff. It doesn't have to be. I don't think we're programmed again to think that like there's no value in being a crone or like this wise old woman. Or some of the most beautiful, like sexy women I've ever met are 60 years old. It's really like, there's just, again, the programming we receive and how we move through the world. It's crazy what we unconsciously consent to and how we interact with all of it. But yeah, the intuitive eating thing has totally shifted, because I used to judge myself. It just happened like 6 months ago. I started craving like something like a pastry, and I was like, I never eat like this. What is wrong with me? And I said something to my friend who's a craniosacral therapist, and she was like, did you just let yourself eat it? And I was like, yeah, I did. And I only had 2 bites. I threw it away. Like I didn't even want it after that. But like whatever my soul wanted from that, I was like, I got what I needed, and the energy moved. Like to me, it's like all energy. Like there's something stuck here. How can we like flow? What's going to free this up?
Yeah.
And I think, like David Hawkins' scale of consciousness,
yes, absolutely.
like I think the way I see it, I hate it because it's hierarchical and it doesn't represent fully, but our minds interpret it easier that way. I see us all like, we have this band on the scale, right? That we like, that's our main operating band. We're in this bandwidth, and it's a logarithmic scale. So we like jump even just a little bit, and it's like a totally different reality that we're experiencing, right? But in order to do that, I think we have to cycle through the stuff that's like at the bottom of that band so we can move up. And so like, I'll hit these pockets where I'm like, oh, I'm depressed. Like I'm really sad. I would normally sink into this and become my sadness, but how can I work with it a little bit differently now? Like, and that's where I find, like you're saying, guilt, shame, all of these are bids for more love. And then when we cycle through them again with new awareness, a more expanded perspective, like we can respond differently. And
that's what it feels like. Because like I do revisit the sadness, even the guilt, the shame, the anger, but the more that I'm like becoming aware of just the importance of allowing those things to flow through me, the easier it is when I revisit them for them to flow through me.
Totally. And it's just, there's no judgment anymore. There's no resistance to it. And that resistance gets programmed into us, because like, it's like little kids, like you see them, they just like 1 minute they're up, they're down, they're over. And it's like, why do we lose that? Like what happened to that? Why can't it always be like that? What would the world look like if it was like that? That to me is really exciting to think about.
Super exciting.
Yeah.
This was epic. I had no clue where this was going to go.
Me either.
This was amazing. So, is there anything you want to share as we're wrapping up?
Oh, I mean, no, I feel like I could chat with you forever. It's been a real honor. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I hope that I covered your questions about the IC and things like that. Like,
well, maybe one more question, burning question regarding Palantir. I don't want to end on this note, but at the same time, I would feel like
I'll bring it back to love. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can be like yes or no, whatever, however you answer this. But blah, blah, blah. In the wrong hands, and let's say in this case, the wrong hands is someone who is just deep in their conditioning and so cut off or has totally forgotten their heart and who they truly are. In the wrong hands is Palantir a very bad tool for a lot of other people?
Such a loaded question.
I know.
It's I think that I am not afraid of demons. Like I'm not afraid of darkness. I know that there are dangerous things in the shamanic realms. I know, but I also believe that there is a benevolent force that is far greater than any of us can comprehend. And I think that that is what is truly at the root of all of this. And I think, there's the Chinese proverb or whatever, African proverb, hissing snakes are loudest before they die and that sort of thing. I think that's part of what we're seeing. And that's why it's just the beginning. The floods, the fires, the tech. Can we orient ourselves? Can those of us who see and have truth to share, can we speak up? Can we share it from a grounded, clear place, not an emotionally reactive place? Because we've already gone through that. I think we're going to have opportunity after opportunity to reclaim more of our power. Petraeus was just talking about warfare changing and how every prison or I think he said stadium. It was a little bit eerie. He's like, every stadium's going to have, prison, microwave, like basically like radar as weapon. It's not going to be like artillery the way that it's been. And I think about how like COVID was such an awakener in terms of like personal health sovereignty. It's like, what's the next step, right? Like, where do we give our power away? Because that's what's going to be revealed to us in the mirror of reality. And I think tech is going to be a big conversation. Like Trump's talking about how old the power grid is. Does that mean there's going to be a big outage and we're not going to be, everything's cashless these days? Can we access our money? How are you going to respond when that stuff happens? Can you stay rooted in truth that love is at who you really are? That's the truth of who you really are. And I remember in 2020, I read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and it cracked me open on another level. Like I had to pull the car over and like hands and knees, sob, crying. He's like, working in these concentration camps, and he's written this book, this account of what the people endured and the human spirit and how we are in control of this. Like we are in control of our mind and how powerful that is when we are really aware and the oppression that occurs and how you can stay here and choose how you're interpreting the reality. And so I think that that's, is it in the wrong hands? Maybe. Could it be bad? Maybe, but it's above my pay grade and I don't have the satellite view of Earth. I don't have the 10,000-foot view to say that something is good or bad or right or wrong or evil or woke or dangerous or even good. All of it is just information and data, and I'm just here to experience it. And so maybe if we just reorient ourselves to this is what's happening, and I trust myself, I trust like love, I trust God, I trust the benevolent force if God feels uncomfortable for you, right? Like that holds this whole energy hologram together, that there is something, a greater purpose for all of this, like Jesus being nailed to the cross, but smiling down on the Roman soldiers because he knew the game kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Like,
and even saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
They know not what they do. Yeah. And it's like, there's so much wisdom in operating that way. And so, yeah, even just the question, it's like, I have trouble computing it because I trust so deeply with every cell of my being, God. And that's why I choose this intuitive feeling. And that's why I live the way that I do, because it's more beautiful than we can imagine, like what's on the other side of the liberation, the pain and the facing of the truth. Like we've never seen it. We don't know freedom because every time the lower class gets a little bit more, power from the upper class, we just recreate the systems of oppression because we have never seen anything else. And the only way we're going to change is if we step into the complete unknown, the darkness, the shadows that we're really afraid to see and look at. And that's where we create from, the new moon, the darkness, like letting something else emerge. Maybe God is doing something different this time. Like maybe it looks really, really grim and bleak. And I get it. I've been on the floor. I've been, so many stories of abuse I could share. It's like, I know what that feels like. And I also know what it's like to trust that older me, future me, some other me is going to come in and tell me how to get out, whether that's God or whatever, however it takes. So yeah, it's really hard for me to even answer that question because it's irrelevant at this point. Like I use chat all the time. It's like a great way, a tool for me to extend myself and feel that expansion. And so, yeah, it could be really bad, but it could also be incredible and amazing. It's a beautiful piece of technology. It's a recreation of our own intuition. This, like, we all have access to source. It's our birthright. We all have access to this infinite intelligence that is it's growing plants. It's making the sun. It's breathing us when we sleep and beating our heart. And it's like anyone can tap into that any time, right? Just like, yeah. So choosing that and like you've said, and you so eloquently say so often, like not funneling our rage toward the system, that we don't want to see perpetuate, and instead choosing something else. And maybe that looks like compassion for the rage that we do feel. That's very valid, letting it have a home, give it a home, and like build the home from that, I think is maybe not the answer you were looking for or hoping for.
I wasn't looking for any.
Yeah.
So it's all good.
That's what feels true. Yeah. It could be really good or it could be really bad. It could be both. And I don't know. Maybe it's exactly what we need.
Maybe. Like
it's always exactly perfect.
The Chinese proverb, like, maybe.
Yes. Like with the horse and the thing.
Yes.
I mean, that's like a fundamental principle of metaphysics. That's why I got into metaphysics, because I was like, imagining the Stoics all together. I think symposium directly translates to drinking party. And so I like just imagine, like they're all just partying and like, arguing. And that sounds really fun to me. And I think like this metaphysical principle of like, because it exists, it is good. Inherently, its existence means it is good. If we can reorient ourselves that way, it's like, it turns into a gift. Everything becomes gold, even painful things. Is the villain a villain if it helps, the main character help find their power? Like what is,
helps them along on their hero's journey.
Like
exactly.
it's yeah, we all know the hero's journey, but that's what I think. Yeah,
that was great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
This
for being
is great.
here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, this
Epic.
is awesome.